President Trump. New Hampshire live. America, and also the author of a new book that addresses the discrepancies in our election process, and she wrote a book all about that. Also, Carolyn Levitt would join us at about 45 minutes past the hour. She is a spokesperson for MAGA Inc., and she is on the ground, very active there in New Hampshire. We'll talk to her as well and find out, what is happening right now in New Hampshire. Now, she had a very, very close run there, ran for Congress this past election, had great ground support, would be probably the youngest person in Congress if she would have won that race. But she knows a lot about the state of New Hampshire, and we'll talk to her as well. Plus, Raven Harrison is a conservative here in the state of Texas, and she's got a few things to say about what's going on here in the state. Now, being someone that grew up primarily in the state of Texas, I know a little bit about the history of the state, politically speaking, but what is it like now? And is it as red as they say? And of course, the Democrats want you to believe this is a very purple state. I'll get Raven's take on that as well. But it's all about the polling. It's all about momentum. And the last time I checked this morning, President Trump was up in the polls by 35 plus percentage points over his next opponent, which would be Governor Ron DeSantis. So a huge lead in the polls going into New Hampshire, which their primary is the first one in the country. It's generally the second Tuesday in March. So if this primary was over today, President Trump is your presumptive nominee on that. We'll get a lot of perspective, but I want to thank our friends before we get started. We cannot do segments like this without our great partners in broadcast, and Birch Gold Group is an amazing company. We've been working with them for over, probably about a year and a half now. And of course, with this push for this digital currency that's happening across several countries throughout the world to get rid of the dollar as a trading currency, now is the time to perhaps invest and diversify your IRA into a gold-backed IRA. And our friends over at the Birch Gold Group can do just that. It's easy to get started. We've had thousands of our viewers reach out to us and say, hey, I picked up my free information kit, and now is the time for you to do the same. Now, you might have heard this ad and heard us talk about this for quite some time now, but simply text the words Trump to 989898. That is Trump to 989898. That is a Birch Gold Group. They are not recommending you swing all of your investments over to into them, but it is good for diversification. And of course, you've got countries that want to do away with the dollar and go to a digital currency, and that could be absolutely destructive to your retirement. So text the words Trump to 989898. That is the Birch Gold Group. We're going to get a live look at what's going on here in New Hampshire. We have a team on the ground there that will give you an idea. Now, this is at the Windham High School here in New Hampshire, and President Trump is scheduled to speak at about 2:30 Eastern time, and we'll have a shot at that. And they expect it holds close to 2,000 people in this auditorium. We'll see. I would imagine, as popular as the president is in that part of the country, I would imagine that we're going to have a pretty good sizable showing there as well. But you're glad you're joining us. We are live here in Dallas, Texas. Happy to be back in this studio. I want to thank our friends over at Real News PR for helping us get all this set up. And they've been a great friend of mine over the years and a great friend of the network to be able to offer up some of these remote live locations. And we certainly appreciate their time. So to unpack everything, you're just now joining us. He is scheduled to speak at 2:30 Eastern. time. And of course, the program there in New Hampshire will kick off at around 1:30 local time, and that might consist of a few local speakers and don't really have a whole lot in regards to who is speaking. We'll try to get that passed along. Then Christina Bobb will join me at the bottom of this hour, and then Carolyn Levitt, spokesperson for MAGA Inc., will join me at the 45 minutes past the hour. Then Raven Harrison will join me at the top of next hour. So let's take a look at this massive poll right now. Let's take a look at why President Trump has such a lead on Governor Ron DeSantis. Now, if you go back to a time where, and the president talked about this in South Carolina just days ago, about when he first heard that DeSantis was going to enter the race, it was kind of shocking, and no one quite knew why that what would happen, I should say, as far as the reaction from the base on him going in and challenging a bid for the Republican nominee. And as we have seen this play out over several months now, we've seen the gap between President Trump and Ron DeSantis get even further and further apart. Now, we can, for several reasons, a lot of people within the base might tell you that it's just wasn't DeSantis' time, that this is something that President Trump, this is what he started in 2016, this is what he would have finished in 2020, and quite honestly, this is what he wants to finish in 2024. But then you go back a little bit further and you start to talk about the indictments, and we've just wrapped up our third indictment in D.C. We were there covering all of that for you. The first two indictments in New York City and there in Miami had all to do with the handling of classified information. Now, the President's Records Act enables a sitting president and a former president to basically declassify and classify documents as he wishes, and has the ability to handle those documents and store them in a secure place. Now, what they went after Trump for mishandling classified documents, and by the way, they've also has dragged in some former colleagues and also a groundskeeper there at Mar-a-Lago for simply being an accomplice of picking up boxes and moving them to another location, which he is able to do by law. But none of that has happened to Joe Biden. And Joe Biden has had documents all over the place. He's had them in Chinatown. He's had them all across Washington. He's had them at beach houses, in the garage, in the back of a storage unit there at his property. So we've seen such a lopsided approach to how we're going to handle classified documents. So that is New York, and that is Miami. So let's fast forward to D.C. We knew this was coming. D.C. is all about January 6th, seditious conspiracy. We knew this months ago, that this was, I guess you could say, the one that they were hoping to eventually remove President Trump from consideration of running for public office for 2024. This is about removing him from the ballot. Now, if President Trump came out today at 12 o'clock and said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and step back from running for president, you would see most of these charges probably go away, case closed, done. All this just instantly goes away. That's not going to happen, and that's why you're going to continue to see lawsuits filed against the former president. Now, I'll say this. Next up is Georgia. Not this week. I predict something's going to happen next week, and it's all about election interference there in that state. So this is the playbook right now for the Democrats. But what it's actually doing is pushing President Trump's approval ratings through the roof, his polling through the roof, and his fundraising to fight all of these lawsuits to levels we've never thought we'd ever expect. And I even said this 2 years ago. If the Democrats would stop focusing on Trump and focus on fixing the country through policy, perhaps they would be able to pull over some of the independent voters. Perhaps they'd pull over some Republican supporters that maybe thought, well, maybe President Trump isn't the best person for this. Maybe this particular candidate has a better path to prosperity. But what they did instead is went after the former president for charges, for a lot of them are complete bogus, and for stuff that was 2.5 years later after a January 6th. So this lopsided justice system that we have, and President Trump often calls them out at rallies and in press conferences, that we've seen his poll numbers go up. And I'm looking at the latest poll numbers that were released this morning, and he's got a 35-plus lead. And I would expect, and I've seen it in other polling as well, I've seen it up to 40, low 40s on his closest competitor. That is, I think, a margin that's almost, you can't surpass that. It would take something like him being removed from the ballot in 2024 through the legal process for that gap to go away and for someone to have the nominee. I've often said on this program that I feel like that is the very reason why you still have such a large field of people wanting to get that nomination in the primary. You've got Asa Hutchinson's in there. You've got Vivek Ramaswamy. You've got Chris Christie, which I don't know what his playbook is as far as getting the nomination. We saw exactly what happens with Will Hurd at one of the rallies that we were at. It was in this few weeks ago. Really took some jabs at the former president, and of course, I think that sealed the deal for him as well. I mean, it was sealed for him a long time ago. But you're seeing this just escalate to a level I don't think is able for anyone to take. So it's going to take a legal process to eliminate President Trump from any type of nomination. All right, so here we are now. We're going into these early stages. We've got the first primary happening in New Hampshire, second Tuesday in March. Then we got the Iowa caucus. We got South Carolina. We got some really key battleground states here early that you've seen the president make campaign rallies at. He's make speeches at as well. And it's going to take, I think, a lot to kick him off the top, for lack of a better term, from those early on primaries. I think you're going to see him jump out for an early lead. But let's talk a little bit about the DOJ. Let's talk a little bit about the FBI. Now, we know exactly what those SARS reports, those suspicious activity reports, laid out that the Treasury Department issued. Now, mind you, these SARS reports are not from a political activist. They're not from a political organization. This is a banking industry report. And I'd be willing to bet that many of you are, probably most of you watching me right now, and many people in this building, have never received a suspicious activity report. Now, this is something that is issued when they see a transfer of suspicious funds going from a suspicious account into a suspicious account here in the U.S. Now, there are thousands and thousands of these SARS reports that come from Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, and other people in the Biden crime family. And I say the word crime family because that's exactly what we're finding out that they are. It's a crime family. And these reports indicate millions and millions of dollars. Now, early on, when you first had a couple members of Congress visit the Department of Treasury, they got these reports. Now, granted, they were not allowed to take these reports out of the Treasury, but they did their best to kind of recap what they said. They were only given a very select time to do this. I think they had an hour to go in there and read these things. I think Nancy Mace, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Jim Jordan, some others, I believe, had their eyes on these reports. But what they saw was millions and millions of dollars pouring out of Ukraine, out of China, into these shell LLCs here in this country. And from there, that money would get kicked down to not just Hunter Biden and not just Joe Biden, but other Biden family members. I mean, I don't know the last time I checked, but I don't think grandkids were set up in an LLC to receive money that was wired from a foreign government or a foreign entity. I don't think that's a part of normalcy in this country, but that's exactly what happened with these SARS reports. Now, these FD 1023 forums that the whistleblower has come forward with, all of this factual evidence leads to a criminal aspect of Joe Biden. So the big question remains, and of course, Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the House, was on Maria Bartiromo yesterday morning on Fox, and she asked him about the impeachment inquiry, which was talked about as we wrapped up this last session before they went on a 6-week break, what's the likelihood of that happening? And of course, there is a path to impeaching a president. Now, if we want to go back and see what the two impeachments they had on President Trump, it was kind of a shortcut version of this. They didn't necessarily follow procedure with those impeachments. They kind of did don't run past the start line. Don't collect $200 and don't bypass jail. It went straight to the point. What Republicans are trying to do at this point is go through the procedural process of getting an impeachment. Now, the impeachment inquiry will open this up. I said this last week. I think we need to do just what the Democrats did for the January 6th commission. In fact, they need to put on this Hollywood scale production, bring out all the witnesses, have all the evidence queued up for the American people to see, because I still feel like the majority of Americans don't necessarily know anything about what's going on with the Biden crime family, all the money transfers, all the wiring, the knowledge that President Biden said he did not have any prior knowledge of talking to business with Hunter about his business dealings overseas. We now know that is false. He took 20 plus phone calls, was put on speaker, and they didn't just talk about the weather. Come on, we weren't born yesterday. They weren't talking about the weather. They were talking about selling the Biden brand. So in this inquiry, it needs to be a full-scale Hollywood production. We need to show the American people, here's the evidence, here are the whistleblowers, which we've seen some already, and these are the reasons why we need to move forward on impeachment on Joe Biden. Now, some of you right now would say, Brian, this is a complete waste of time. This is something that none of us need to be spending 2 seconds on, because we know it's just going to die in the Senate and then it's never going to happen. But this is built on principle. This is built on doing what's right, holding people accountable, regardless of what the long-term effects of that is, as far as being, confirmed in the Senate and all of that. Now, we'll talk about the expungement of President Trump's previous impeachments. Those need to be erased from the history books, and I'm going to tell you why, because we both know now that the two bases that they were caused, the Russia, and the perfect phone call from President Trump to Ukraine, to Zelensky, to ask him about the very fraud that we found out was going on. Those two things that we found to be completely valid, the Russia being a hoax, and of course the perfect phone call to expose the corruption that we found out later is going on. His impeachment needs to be removed from the record books. Now, there's two ways. Well, there's really one way you can do it. Elise Stefanik and Marjorie Taylor Greene are the two members of Congress that have put this legislation up for a vote. Not quite up for a vote yet. It needs to get a little bit more support. Now, which makes you think, we have the majority, obviously. It's a very slim majority, but we do have the majority. And you've got to imagine, like, what Republican doesn't want to support the expungement of a Trump impeachment? It seems like it's, despite all the information, considering all the information that we have, why would someone be against that? And I think that's what we need to find out. Also, on the same note, why would some House Republicans, I expect Democrats to fully not support the impeachment of Joe Biden. I expect that. I wouldn't expect anything less of them to vote for that. But Republicans, I find that very interesting how there's a lot of, not a lot, I would say a handful of House Republicans that cannot get behind the impeachment of Joe Biden. So once again, I like giving homework on this show, and I want to give you guys homework on this, that we must push out, contact your congressman and ask them, do you support the articles of inquiry and the articles of impeachment on Joe Biden? And if they say no, I'd like to know what their answer is. It's 19 minutes past the hour. I also want to talk about post-COVID. If you took the vaccine and you're feeling a little foggy, and a lot of people after the vaccine has had some negative effects on them. We've seen some of these high-profile athletes experience some side effects from getting the vaccine, where our friends over at the wellness company has developed a formula to remove that spike protein in your body that's left post-vaccine. So if you want to get back to your healthy self, Dr. Peter McAuliffe, who has been the leader in all of this, has a special formula for you to remove that spike protein from your blood system and get you back healthy again. The information for this is on your screen. Contact them and let them know, hey, you know what? I want a better health. I don't feel myself. I maybe have anxiety that you're seeing some of this stuff in the news about people just suddenly collapsing and having some health problems due to their adverse reaction to the vaccine. So get a peace of mind and get this product. The Wellness Company, they have it for you. Make Care Great Again. What a great website. Make Care Great Again. Go check it out. Don't forget to put that promo code RSPN for a special discount on that, because it's very important that you maintain your health. And we could talk about COVID. We could talk about the origins of COVID, but let's talk about getting you back to health. Go check them out, the Wellness Company, the famous Dr. Peter McAuliffe joining us right there. Okay, so go check them out. The great partner, them and Birch Gold. Wonderful to have that. In about 11 minutes, we're going to check in with Christina Bobb and get the very latest on the Trump campaign. I do want to talk about this. Is really interesting. The silence from the mainstream media. I've been monitoring a lot of the Trump indictments. Of course, I was in D.C. I was very grateful to be in the motorcade with the president as he landed there in D.C. at Reagan International and made his way to the courthouse. It was nonstop coverage on that. Absolutely wall-to-wall by all mainstream media was there. But all of the information that has come out in regards to the corruption in the Biden crime family, you don't necessarily see that. Now, obviously, I've seen it covered on Fox. I've seen them cover what's going on with the Biden and the LLC and Burisma and Ukraine. We've seen that. But you don't normally see it through all the other media outlets. And so that's why I think it's so important that we have this inquiry to put it out there for the American people so they can see, because it's been kind of silenced from the media. I want to talk real quickly also about the Bud Light meltdown right now, and Dylan Mulvaney, and how he single-handedly has dropped a nuclear bomb on the brand Bud Light. Now, you take an all-American brand like Bud Light, and for years it's been the best-selling beer. You've seen the Super Bowl commercials. You've seen celebrity endorsements and products and things like that. But to see them absolutely move out of the public eye and the American off the shelves, if you want to be quite frank, that has happened, all due to poor execution and really the pandering to our audience and to the American people that they need to get behind any of these radical gender ideologies. And of course, you know, I've always said on this show, if you want to, you do you, is what I like to say. And whatever you do in your privacy of your home is that's all you. That's none of my business, and it's none of anybody else's business. But clearly, the marketing department over that handles the Bud Light campaigns made a huge mistake with this. And the last time I checked, the marketing coordinator for this project took some time off. Now, I tried to see exactly if she's back on the job, but I just don't know how someone can be allowed to keep their job in an industry after allowing a nuclear bomb be dropped on Bud Light. And Dylan Mulvaney, I can't think of another example why isn't there any kind of legal process going on towards Dylan Mulvaney? What responsibility does he have for the destruction of such a great American brand? And I was just yesterday walking. I went into 3 different grocery stores here in the North Texas area, and just to kind of, for various reasons, but I made a point to check in the beer cooler to see what the selection looked like for Bud Light. And I really was surprised, because outside of just only having 1 or 2 cases on the shelf, that was it. So I think you've seen, in my opinion, the last of Bud Light. I think that this is a great example of how we just cannot allow the wokeness to creep into corporate America. And if you're a shareholder in some of these companies, you've got to be pretty upset, because you've seen the market cap drop, you've seen sales earnings drop, you've seen jobs be affected by this. And let's see if that can be something that we can correct. All right, we're 5 minutes, 11:25 here locally in Dallas. If you're just now joining us, welcome. This is our pre-show into President Trump's remarks there in Windham, New Hampshire, where he's planning to go to Windham High School there. He's going to speak to a small crowd there gathered at the high school. I would imagine school's not in session yet. If it is, what a great surprise to have the former president make an appearance there. Also, Christina Bobb will join us here in a few minutes to talk about the very latest in the elections. We're going to also talk to Raven Harrison. She is a conservative. She is a conservative personality based here in the Dallas area. We'll talk to her at the top of next hour and get her thoughts on what's going on in Texas. I spent most of my life here, a lot of it in California, and now a lot of it bouncing back around the country. I think I probably sleep in more hotels than I do my own bed, and I drive more rental cars than I do my own car. But what is the very latest in Texas? Is it as red as they say? Now, if you listen to a lot of the mainstream media, they're going to tell you that, when Beto was running for governor, that Texas was very purple. It was at a chance of flipping, and that even Ted Cruz, he's got a challenger now that's now running and says that he's going to beat Ted Cruz. I want to get her thoughts on exactly what the state of Texas is like right now and how red it actually is. We're also going to talk about Bidenomics and how can you label such a failing economic policy with your name? Why would you do that? We've seen what inflation has done, and gas is the low-hanging fruit on this. Oil and gas is the low-hanging fruit with Bidenomics, but it goes much broader than that. It goes to groceries. It goes to heating and cooling your home. I know here in North Texas, if I was to tell you what my electric bill was the month of July, it is basically a small mortgage on some houses. It's ridiculous how much everything has gone up. We'll talk about a little bit that as well. Plus the credit rates, for credit card interest rates has skyrocketed. We've seen the fixed rate be raised, and of course that's going to hit a lot of consumers right now. And so I can't think of a worse time, really, to have Bidenomics and to think that Biden has a hand on the economy when you're seeing interest rates go up, you're seeing credit bills go up, you're seeing the price of gas, food, electricity, everything, goods of services. If you're trying to construction industry, everything has gone up. So I don't know how you run on the economy in 2024. So the way you do it is you just go after your political opponent, and that's exactly what they have done on that. We'll also talk a little bit about the southern border. We're probably 350 miles, maybe plus, maybe a little bit more, from the southern border where I'm sitting right now, and we have seen the destruction of that, the basic decay of the border. It just has opened up, and I've stood at the border. I've actually stood underneath where the wall would have been built. The steel portion of the wall was built above me, and they hadn't put on the rest of it. It was halted. First week of the Biden administration, and we have seen the effects of an open border, not only on illegals coming in this country, and I think we can all agree that we are all in support of people coming to this great nation. It's the way we were built. It's the way we were founded by immigrants, and I don't think anybody's against that. I think what we are against is illegal immigration and a lot of the crime that's coming with it and the fentanyl that's pouring over the border. And we've often heard these rates of, 300 people a day die of fentanyl overdoses, accidental overdoses. And of course, we've seen the videos of these zombie-like people walking around the streets of America. There was a TikTok video, and I've put that on my Twitter. You can go follow me at Brian Glenn TV on Twitter. I reshared it from Benny Johnson of a girl who basically went to the grocery store and was so nervous that she had to, basically fight off a verbal attack from somebody on the street that wanted to basically rob her. That is the scene in many parts of this country in these major cities. We got fentanyl, drugs on the street, and we have crime, definitely crime. And we'll go into my top 3 reasons why I feel like President Trump is the best person to handle what we have going on today. I'll get us quick. We have Christina Bobb on the line. We do. All right, I want to go to Christina Bobb. She joins me. She is Trump attorney, Save America, and she's often my counterpart in covering these rallies. Christina, thanks for joining us today as we move into yet another speech in New Hampshire. But give us kind of an update of what you have on the proceedings. I was in D.C. We took our viewers on a journey of what it was like to be in D.C. We saw what went down there in the court. Can you give us any latest on that and the other cases right now going on with the president?
Yeah, well, I mean, you saw what happened at the arraignment. Jack Smith charged the president, former President Donald Trump, with 4 counts, all of which I don't think they are even close to being capable of proving beyond a reasonable doubt. They charged him nonetheless. And then after spending 3 years investigating, taking all this time, they asked the court to set a trial date a little more than 2 months from now. It's astonishingly absurd what they're trying to do. I think every move they make signals to the American people that this is election interference. They're trying to push this as an issue for the 2024 election. Normally, a case like this would take a couple of years to get through the case itself, because they're forcing us to relitigate the 2020 election because President Trump believed that the 2020 election was stolen, and he still believes the 2020 election was stolen. And I think it's an important point to make for the American people that in order for them to actually get a conviction of Donald Trump, they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Donald Trump believed he lost the election and concocted this crazy rigged election story for the purpose of deceiving the American people into believing the election was stolen when he himself believed that he lost. That's what they have to prove.
Yeah, and we, Christina, we knew this was coming. We knew this was coming, right?
Yeah. I mean, they have been saying they're going to do it. The question was when. It was a question of timing, and clearly they timed it in a way where they want to interfere with the 24 election. They've been investigating this for 3 years. The facts have not changed. The facts at issue really occur a very limited period of time between November 3rd and January 6th, and yet they drug it out for 3 years and are now bringing this case 3 years later and want to railroad Donald Trump into trying this case within a matter of months without having the ability to build his defense and actually allow the attorneys to really see the evidence against him. Jack Smith cites the Sixth Amendment and says, I'm going to push for a speedy trial in this case.
Yeah.
Okay, but the right to a speedy trial is the right of the defendant, not of the government to railroad someone into a criminal trial that they're not prepared for. Now, I'm convinced, thankfully, because you and I have been covering this for almost 3 years now. We do have a lot of the information necessary to show that this case is fundamentally flawed. But the attorneys, the trial attorneys, need time to go through the evidence that the government has collected. Even though we all have the information that we've collected showing that there was the poll books and the canvassing didn't match in Wayne County, Michigan. Antrim County, Michigan, the results actually flipped, changed the outcome of the election. You had Republican poll workers being removed in all of the states. In Pennsylvania, in Georgia, you had the State Farm Arena showing that they were the video showing that Republican challengers were removed from the process while they continued the count. They pulled hidden ballots out from under a table. You've got Arizona, same affidavit saying that people were removed from the counting facility. You've got these massive mail-in ballots. Drop boxes have been declared illegal since then. So the whole process of the 2020 election was done illegally, and President Trump was right for questioning it.
Yeah, Christina Bobb joining us on the pre-show here as we move into New Hampshire. Now, driving here in Dallas, I was listening to one of the conservative outlets here, and they had one of the callers phone in to the host and says, is there proof? I don't know where this guy's been hiding, but he goes, is there proof that there's, enough evidence to prove that there was some questions in the 2020 election? And I tried not to wreck my car, Christina, because I don't know where he's been hiding. But we've seen so much proof. Yeah. Even if you look at 2,000 Mules and the way they weaponized these drop boxes the way they did. And of course, you had to deal with COVID. They did it all in the name of protection, personal security, and personal safety, right? Used COVID for that. But my question to you, and maybe you kind of answered it earlier, but have we done enough in these states that we can ensure that this next election, either we're not going to see, wood paneling being put up in the windows to block people behind from poll watching. We're not going to see that anymore, because I think if the first time we see that come up, I think it's going to be a full-scale riot to stop that from happening. We didn't know any better in 2020. Now we do know.
Right.
But in your opinion, have we done enough to secure that we won't have any of these discrepancies?
So we have done a lot. I would like to see more done. But the thing that gives me comfort that, you know what, maybe we actually have done enough is the fact that they're bringing these indictments at all. If they honestly believed that they had the election so secured that under no circumstances could Donald Trump win, they wouldn't bother bringing these indictments. Bringing these indictments out the fact that they're political opportunists who are weaponizing the government against the American people. And they don't want this discussion, the discussion that we're having right now. They don't like it, and they don't want the American people thinking that. So the fact that they're bringing these indictments at all leads me to believe that they believe Donald Trump's going to win this election, and I think he will. But it takes the American people getting involved. You know, I wrote the book on how people can get involved and what happened in 2020 and what we need to do in 2024 to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And thankfully, I'm grateful that so many Americans have stepped up and are getting involved in their local elections, because this is going to be cleaned up from the precinct and county level, not from the national, really, or even state level, because a lot of these state leaders, in my opinion, aren't doing enough.
We'll get to that book here in just a second, because I want to talk more about that book. But I think you're onto something, because they know that the latest polls, Trump is a presumptive nominee for the Republican Party if the election was held today, and actually head to head with Joe Biden, he beats him in just about every poll. So they know that head to head, Biden's going to lose. So here's my next question to you: if you're the Democrats, do you roll out another candidate? You push Joe Biden stage left and you bring in somebody new, knowing that you can't run on economic policy because that has been disastrous. Foreign policy has been disastrous. The border policy has been disastrous. You almost have to bring in a fresh new quarterback. Do you think they do that before the election?
Just my personal opinion. I don't think Biden is going to be the candidate. I mean, obviously he's the incumbent, and if he makes it there, but you've covered reporting on it way closer than I have, but all of the scandal that's coming out with the Biden family and the crimes that they've committed, the bribes that they've taken, how they have specifically taken money for the purpose of changing political policy and making impact in foreign nations. I think they're going to have some trouble with that. So I suspect something will happen. Who knows? Some maneuvers are going to be made to try to shuffle the deck. That's just my personal opinion. To me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's Joe Biden. It doesn't matter if it's any other nameless, faceless Democrat. It's not actually the candidate that they're running. They're running the machine. Whoever the Democrat is, it's Donald Trump versus the machine. I don't mean the voting machines. I mean the machine of elections. It's Donald Trump versus this apparatus that they've put in place to control the outcome of the election. That's what Donald Trump is running against. And
the in the Department of Justice and the FBI.
That's all part of it. That is the machine. Really, the machine, I would say, is probably the federal government in collaboration with private corporations, like we've seen, like Facebook and Twitter and social media, trying to deceive the American public. It's that whole apparatus is what Donald Trump is running against. Okay,
let's quickly talk about your book. You wrote an entire book, and I told you this when you first joined our network, and I knew you from a previous network, and how much time you spent in specifically Arizona and Wisconsin. Well, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia.
Yeah,
you went to all of them. Right. So let's talk about your book and how people can get it, because I do think information is power, especially if we know exactly what happened in 2020. We can prevent that from happening next year.
Yeah, I think so. It's called Stealing Your Vote, The Inside Story of the 2020 Election and What It Means for 2024. It's available wherever books are sold. And I wrote it really was just my story of, as an investigative reporter at the time, digging into all of these states. I spent months on the ground in each of these states talking to elected leaders and witnesses and volunteers and county clerks and anybody that was involved in the election to try to piece together what actually happened in the 2020 election. And I think people won't be surprised, but it might be a bit frustrating. But the reason why I wrote it and why I think it's so important is because this gets cleaned up at the precinct and county level. We all have to clean up our precincts. We all have to clean up our counties to make sure that it's safe and secure. Because if we don't, it's not safe and secure. I mean, that's just the end result. People do try to manipulate our elections. I think prior to 2020, we lived in this Pollyanna world where we just believed everybody does the right thing and the outcomes are the outcomes. And we've learned that that's not really the case. So we, the American people, have to step up, volunteer, work for your county, do what you can do. And I hope that stealing your vote helps give you some ideas about what other people have done in other communities and what you can do in your own.
Christina Bobb joining us in this New Hampshire pre-show. I want to say that a lot of people think there's widespread voter fraud or election fraud, I should say. It's about, 9 to 11 counties in those 5 states. It's not very many. You flip those 5 states, you flip the presidential election. Am I right on that?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I do think there's widespread fraud, but I think they concentrate it in the areas that you're discussing.
Okay.
We've seen a lot of these counties like Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Fulton County in Georgia, where they made a move to start centralizing the count. It used to be that the votes were counted at the precinct level or lower level, and now they have a centralized counting facility, and that makes it a lot easier to cheat because you only need one person to cheat, one person to change the number, one person to mess something up. When everything's decentralized and votes are counted at the precinct level or divvied up among the county, then it's much harder to cheat because you would need someone in each of those places to manipulate. And right now we're seeing that the books are not matching the canvas. And so that indicates that there's a problem between the precincts and the county. There's something occurring in there, and that's largely because they have centralized the count. So that's one move that we've seen made. If you're active in this, please let your counties know you want to decentralize the count. And that, I think that will help clear up a lot of this because it takes away the opportunity for people to change numbers.
Never a dull day in the life of Christina Bobb, for sure, as she is fighting the good fight there. I don't know the next time I'm going to see you because we don't have any future rallies that are on the book that I know we're going to have them, but I just don't have that knowledge right now. But when we do, Christina Bobb and myself will be on the ground there carrying it for you live. And as always, Christina, we appreciate your service to this country. You're a great veteran. You fight for the veterans. You fight for America. You fight for our voting, the integrity of our vote. And we certainly appreciate it. I'm very thankful to call you a friend.
Brian, thank you so much for having me. I love being on your network, and I look forward to working with you soon. There
you go, Christina Bobb joining us as we make our way into the program now.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Programming note, the program on the ground there should start at about 1:30 local time. They have a short program schedule, and then, of course, President Trump takes the stage at 2:30 their local time. Christina Bobb talking a lot about, taking it down to the precinct level. A lot of people say, well, I want to get involved. I want to do my part in trying to secure these elections. What can I do? And I can't emphasize anymore to get involved in your local precinct. Get involved to be a poll watcher. We saw the video. I remember going into the 2020 election, my last rally before the election was in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I felt very confident because we had seen so much support for the president from a rally standpoint over time. And we also saw what the economy was doing. We saw that, the inflation was low. The unemployment rate was low. We had average wages for African Americans at historic highs. You had wages for Latino workers at an all-time high. The economy was solid. We had no new foreign wars. Our southern border was as secure as it's ever been. Everything was happening. Everything was great. And so I felt very confident going into the election. And then, of course, we saw what happened there. So I just want to encourage everybody to get involved in your local level elections. And I'd even say get involved in your school boards. Get involved in your city councils because there is a ground game there as well as far as education. Matter of fact, Glenn Youngkin, now governor of Virginia, that was pretty much the card he played going into that election that he had. for governor, he stepped in there and said, "Wait a minute, we're gonna defend the parents' rights for education, students' rights. We're gonna kind of push back on a lot of the wokeness that was being indoctrinated into our public school system." And he won. The Loudoun County parents and the people up in that area of the state were right behind him, and he was able to win. Now, I have read there's been some things that he hasn't been as tough as he probably should have been now that we've kind of gone forward, but that's what you have to do. You have to get involved in that. Here in a few minutes, we'll have Caroline Levitt. I don't know if she's on the phone yet. She is not on the phone. Caroline Levitt will join us from New Hampshire. She is a spokesperson for MAGA Inc. We'll have her on momentarily. And of course, Raven Harrison will join us at the top of this next hour to talk about the state of Texas and just some of the things that we're dealing with. We've got a governor race. We've got some hot, contested Senate races. We've got, of course, all that's been going on in the House of Representatives. You've got Kim Paxton facing an impeachment there. We'll get hopefully she has some insight on that as well. But it has been a great, I would say, great couple of months now as we kind of move into more of this, trying to get a lay of the land as far as polling goes under the Republicans. And we've seen each indictment, each legal attack from the left, from the Justice Department, elevate Trump's polling, it's elevated his fundraising levels, and it's elevated really the excitement in the America First MAGA movement. And Christina said this earlier, and I want to kind of touch on this while we wait for Caroline Levitt to come on, is this is really not an attack against President Trump. Obviously, he is a target of all of these lawsuits. He is the reason, he is the focal point for all of this. But this is really an effort to silence everyone within the MAGA sphere with the mindset of America First, because 10 years from now, when President Trump is out of public office and he's hitting golf balls again, enjoying his life with his beautiful family, it is really the next man up. Who is the next man up for this MAGA movement? Who is it? And whoever it is going to face likely the same attacks that President Trump is receiving now. So this is not going to stop until we are able to topple and reshuffle and reposition this Department of Justice and FBI. And I know once we always say, when you say defund the FBI, I don't think we're not making this broad statement when we think every FBI agent in the field should lose his or her job. That is not what we're saying. But the Christopher Wrays at the top that have absolutely weaponized the FBI and really Department of Justice in general, those guys need to be held responsible, and they need to be dismantled. They need to be removed from those positions. And we're not talking about the good men and women that are on the ground fighting and trying to solve a lot of problems that we have. We're talking at the very top. So this goes beyond President Trump. This goes way beyond President Trump. The next man up, the next man or woman up, that's who they're going to start to go after. And if we don't stop them now, this America First agenda won't. It'll be always legal problems going forward. Do we have Caroline Levitt on the line yet? We do. All right, let's go live to Caroline Levitt. She is spokesperson of MAGA Inc. She is live there in the beautiful state of New Hampshire. Caroline, can you give me an idea of what it looks like right now in your home state? I'm not hearing her.
I think she might still be.
I can hear you now.
Oh, you got me. Can you hear me? She dropped out just for a second. We'll see if we can't get her back on with us live as she is on the ground there in Windham, New Hampshire. We'll have her queued up, ready to go here in just a second. We'll get that worked out. But this movement is more than just taking out Trump. It's to take out really the next man up in this MAGA movement. That it is a mindset. It is putting America first. It is, and that's what made Trump so unique in 2016, of having that outsider approach to quote drain the swamp. And little did we know back in 2015, 2016, just how deep the swamp was and just how corrupt it was. And I think that 4 years, now granted 2 years of that, it was very difficult to get things done with Speaker of the House Paul Ryan essentially blocking a lot of the things that were being trying to be accomplished. But it will be a very different scenario coming back in 2024. And when he's sworn in January 2025, hopefully we can continue to drain that swamp, because that is a very swamp that is really permeated inside the FBI and the Department of Justice. We have her on the line yet? Nope, still working on that. We'll get her on the line here shortly. But that's why it's so important in this election that we focus on draining the swamp. And now, a lot of people, and I said this earlier in terms of the Biden crime family, a lot of people don't necessarily understand what that looks like. They don't understand because if they watch the mainstream media, if they watch the nightly news, they're not necessarily telling you that, but they're going to pound in the ground all of the stuff involving Trump. So if you just, we sometimes think we live in we live in a globe, we live in a bubble sometimes, that we think that everyone is as aware of what's going on as we are. And that's certainly not the case. That's why it's so important that we make sure that we get this information out, and we do this in such a public fashion like they did with January 6th Commission. All right, I've been told we've got Carolyn Levitt on. She is a spokesperson for MAGA Inc., and she joins me live on the ground there in New Hampshire. Tell me, what's the mood like right now in that high school gymnasium? Looks like we got her a little froze up on some video. Little Wi-Fi issues probably. Yeah, we'll try see if we can't get her reconnected there and get her back on. But it's just so important that we make sure that when we do get President Trump into the White House, that he is able to do the very things that need to be done to ensure the future of MAGA as well. Coming up at the top of the hour, we're also going to have Raven Harrison will join us. She is a local media personality here in the Dallas area, and she has a great show on that. We'll talk about travel real quickly. I don't know the last time you guys took a flight. I travel quite a bit, as you would expect. The president talks about this a lot during his speeches, is about how the airline industry, the pilots, our air traffic controllers, the airports, are in a situation now that it's some experts say by 2034, we're going to be in a ton of trouble in regards to a pilot shortage, air traffic control shortage, and personnel operating these really intricate parts of the airport. So we had Vanessa Broussard try to make her way back from South Carolina back to Texas. The other day, I was on the phone with her and yesterday, and she said that she took her almost 13 hours to get home. That was a combination of a little bit of weather in the Atlanta area, but then also the fact they didn't have pilots, didn't have enough backup pilots to step up and fly these planes, because a lot of these hours get extended, and of course they can't work certain duration of time. So there is a major shortage of pilots, and so about last week, I talked to a couple of pilots in DCA, and I was asking them about their perspective on this, and they said absolutely. He said we need a new kind of a batch of pilots to come up, and of course, we saw some of the effects that COVID and the vaccine mandates had on the airline industry, and forced a lot of these pilots into early retirement, or basically make them sit at home because they didn't get the vaccine and they weren't able to get back in the seat. So if you miss so long from flying, you've got to get recertified, which takes time. So all of that. So we do absolutely have a problem in the airline industry, and we'll talk a little bit about that a little later. I am told we have the one and only Carolyn Levitt on the line with us live in New Hampshire. She is a spokesperson for MAGA Inc. Carolyn, give me an idea of what it looks like there.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Brian. It's great to be on with you. I am live here at Windham High School in Windham, New Hampshire, a town just a couple of towns over from where I grew up in our great first in the nation primary state. And I can tell you, I'm looking at a lot of great people that are funneling in through security. I was told that there were supporters here at midnight last night camping out. And when I came in today, there was a line wrapped around the entire high school of very excited patriots. The campaign rolled out more than 120 veterans, a veterans coalition in support of President Trump, which is very important. We have a big population of veterans here in our Granite State who don't feel they are receiving the care or support they deserve under Joe Biden's administration. And so we're excited to roll out that Veterans Coalition today and hear from the former and future president of the United States.
At the top of the show, I talked about some of the polling numbers, not only in New Hampshire, but across this country. Why is Trump dominating so much in the state of New Hampshire?
Yeah, well, you saw the poll today show that he has a dominant 34-point lead over the rest of the field. In fact, Ron DeSanctimonious is imploding further and now tied for second with Krispy Kreme Christie, as I like to call him. And so Donald Trump remains the dominant front runner, no doubt about it. He's going to win the first in the nation primary for the third time. And in my humble opinion, having been born and raised here in New Hampshire, I believe it's because of his record of achievement. Voters here in New Hampshire are wise, and they know that Donald Trump delivered for them before. They remember just a couple of years ago when our electric bills weren't as high, when we weren't choosing between heating our homes or feeding our families, as many families were forced to decide this past winter. And also the wide open border under Joe Biden's administration has had a huge toll on our state. We've seen legal Chinese fentanyl more and more in our communities. Our law enforcement community is suffering and speaking out because of it. In fact, the numbers were just released, and there was an 11% increase in deadly overdoses from fentanyl in our state last year. And in 2018, under Donald Trump's leadership, overdoses hit a record low. And so we are feeling the consequences of Joe Biden's disastrous agenda. And just like in every other state, we want safety, prosperity, security, and an economic future for future generations. And so that's why I really believe you're seeing not only Republicans, but independents rallying around the former president to reelect him again so we can restore this country to greatness. You know,
it's interesting when you look at the governor there in New Hampshire, Chris Sununu, he got 65% of the vote there, but yet I've been told, and you know more about this than probably anybody watching this right now, why is he so popular in that state, but yet when we go up there to do a rally or cover a speech, and I talk to people on the ground, he gets a lot of boos as well. Why is that?
He's popular with it's because he's popular with Democrats, and unfortunately there are a lot of them here in New Hampshire, but he's certainly not popular with the Republican base that is overwhelmingly supporting President Trump in this race. They believe in the America First agenda. They want to put New Hampshire first, not China, not Russia. And they also see, of course, the embarrassment that Joe Biden has brought our whole nation to on the world stage over the past couple of years. You have Russia and China promising a new world order. Of course, we will always remember the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan that left 13 Gold Star family members dead. Joe Biden's administration said nothing about those Gold Star families in their heart-wrenching testimony yesterday. And that's, again, why you see the coalition of veterans being launched by the Trump campaign here in New Hampshire today, because there are veterans here, there are hardworking business owners here who feel forgotten under Joe Biden, and they want Donald Trump.
And also, give me an idea on the media presence there. Obviously, we have a camera crew there. We're going to bring all the program in its entirety. But, you know, I said this before he came on, I feel like the media really focused on all these indictments with President Trump, but yet they have almost zero coverage of all of the criminal activity with the LLCs and Burisma and all the Ukraine ties. What is the media like now in New Hampshire? Are they there at this event? Are you seeing a lot of coverage for the president there? Is it fair? Is it completely off the walls? Give me an idea what the media presence is right now.
Well, the fake news is here because they're obsessed with Donald Trump, and it's very good for their ratings, so they like to cover him. I doubt they are covering Joe Biden's corruption or the international bribery scheme that he's been engaged in. Every day, more evidence is revealed proving that Joe Biden accepted millions of dollars in bribes through wire transfers, 20 LLCs set up when he was vice president of the United States. As my friend Congressman Byron Donald said, that is Pulitzer Prize award-winning journalism stuff, but the mainstream media doesn't cover it. Their only goal is not reporting truth or facts or digging to the bottom of stories. It is getting Donald Trump and protecting Joe Biden and the Democrats. And that's why they pushed the Russia gate, which was based on lies planted by Hillary Clinton's campaign. It's why they went along with the impeachment over Ukraine when Donald Trump was simply asking for the truth that we now know. Joe Biden was engaged in a corruption scheme and accepted millions of dollars. It's truly treasonous criminal behavior, but the mainstream media doesn't want to cover it because they're covering for Joe Biden.
They are covering for Joe Biden. All right, you had a great congressional run last time there in New Hampshire. I was pulling for you. Millions of Americans across this country was pulling for you because you just got such a great passion for this country and you want to serve those people in New Hampshire. Can I sense any type of desire to go back and do that again in your future?
No, and I appreciate your saying that, Brian. And it's so great to be here today with so many patriots in my home state. A lot of support. But right now, my number one focus is ensuring Donald Trump is reelected to the White House just so we can save this country. And then we'll take it from there.
There you go. I love that. That's a great answer, by the way. And we certainly appreciate all the efforts you do for President Trump and MAGA Inc. They are a vital part of getting the message out because, like you said earlier, the mainstream media, for the most of the time, do not report on what's really happening. How can people follow you on social media or maybe a website? They've got a great campaign video that just dropped a couple of days ago, which is awesome. How can people watch that and follow you on social media?
Yeah, they can follow us. I'm the spokeswoman for Make America Great Again, Inc., which is the official super PAC supporting President Trump's re-election. So you can go to MAGA Inc. War Room and you can see our new ad that we just dropped exposing Joe Biden's corruption. We're spending a couple $1 million to expose that on CNN, which is fantastic because, again, you know, the viewers on CNN aren't seeing that. And then you can follow me personally at KLevittsNH, Twitter, Truth Social, Instagram, Facebook. I'm on everywhere and love hearing from great patriots. Thanks for what you do, Brian.
Thank you. I wish we had one of those talk back things where we can look at the camera reactions of viewers watching CNN and MSNBC to see that commercial. I'd love to see the reaction.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you very much. Carolyn Levitt, spokesperson for MAGA Inc., joining us on the ground there in New Hampshire. We should have a live look at that high school, Windham, New Hampshire High School there, waiting for the president. Now, the program starts there on the ground in about 30 minutes, and then the president takes the stage at 2:30 their local time. I'm going to have Raven Harrison join us here in a few minutes to talk about the state of Texas. I do want to talk about Ukraine here real quick. Now, if I was to put the top concerns of how people, what they're voting on and what's important to them in this election, I'm going to probably say it's number one is the economy. In that it's hurting a lot of seniors, it's hurting a lot of people on fixed income, the core inflation.
We pray that you would protect him and his team from all harm. We pray for our nation and for the many challenges that we face. We pray that you help us to overcome our differences, unite us as one people, and that you heal the wounds that have been caused by division. Help us to rise above the negativity of politics and focus instead on the path ahead. We pray for the wisdom and discernment of President Trump and all those who would seek to lead our great nation. We pray that you would give them the vision to chart the right course and that you would grant them the courage to stay steady at the helm. We pray also for those who lead the country today, that they may use the power and influence entrusted in them to do good and provide equal justice for all, and resist the temptation to abuse their power for personal gain. We pray for our first responders and law enforcement, especially those with us here today. Keep them safe from all danger as they work so hard to keep our communities safe. We thank you for their bravery and willingness to do a difficult and often thankless job. Eternal Father, strong to save, we pray for the men and women of our armed services. May you keep and protect those who stand the watch in the air, on the land, and on and under the sea, so that we may know a life of peace. Protect as well those who have served and have now hung up the cloth of the nation. Help those who are struggling to seek the support and love of their brothers and sisters. We pray that you are here with us today as we gather to hear from President Trump. We pray that you open our hearts to his message and that we will be inspired to follow his lead. Likewise, we pray that you open all of our hearts to your message, that you give us the courage to stand up for what we believe in, and that we would be willing to follow the truth in our hearts. In your holy name we pray, amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please welcome to the stage New Hampshire State Representative and Air Force veteran, Joe Petrie.
Thank you. If you'd stand for the pledge, face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, to sing our national anthem, please welcome to the stage Madeline Peters.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage former United States Senator and Vietnam War veteran, Bob Smith.
Wow, a lot of people. One of the things when you go to a DeSantis rally, you don't have to worry about having a lot of people to speak to. Thank you all for coming out. I know President Trump today wanted to honor our veterans, and many of our veterans are sitting here in the front row where they deserve to be and to be honored. So I want to say thank you to all you for your service. I'm proud to have served in Vietnam, and my dad died at the end of the Second World War, and I had three uncles that served in World War II. And you know, some of you my age might remember what it was like to stand at a 4th of July parade and watch these veterans walk by, and you feel, you know, you take your hat off and you hold it over your heart, you salute the flag, and you did it. You shed a tear or two, but you shed those tears for a reason. And that reason was appreciation and thankfulness for the service and the sacrifice that they made. But you know, one of the reasons why Donald Trump needs to be the next president of the United States is now we have to shed a tear because we're losing our freedoms rather than our men and women. That's why we need Donald Trump. Now, I'd like everybody, I know it's a raucous crowd, we're supposed to fire you up like anybody needs to fire up a Donald Trump crowd, right? But I'd like you all to just, for a moment, just be silent, if you can, and just close your eyes just briefly and think, fast forward now. It's the day after the election, a year from November. We're in 2024, and you wake up in the morning and you flip the TV on, and I know you never watch MSNBC or any of those channels, but this morning, I want you to turn it on, and I want you to watch their faces. Oh, Donald Trump is elected the 47th President of the United States of America. By golly. You watch those long faces and those tears. Oh, man. I might even break open a beer at 8 o'clock in the morning on that day. My wife, Mary Jo, and I had the extraordinary privilege to have about 15 or 20 minutes of a private meeting with President Trump a short time ago. And I want you all to know something. You know, you can tell what's in a man's heart when you look into his eyes. And I'm going to tell you, this guy is doing what he is doing for us. And you know what he's going through. No one can imagine nobody in history has ever gone through, the harassment and the crap that this man has gone through. And he's doing it for us. He's doing it for us. And all we have to do for him is be out there in November and make this man the 47th President of the United States. Bring everybody. Do not assume that somebody is going to vote. If you have a shut-in or somebody who's ill or maybe who can't get out, get them a ballot and vote for Donald Trump. It's so important. Everybody always says this is the greatest, most important election in history. Well, this one is. I'm not a young man. I've supported a lot of presidential candidates here over the years in New Hampshire. This guy is the best, without exaggeration. And let me tell you, when I served in the U.S. Senate and in the House, I was in that swamp. I know what it's like. You got to swim, and you got to try to stay afloat. It's not easy. But let me tell you, those swamp creatures are scared to death of this guy because they know what he's going to do when he wins. He's going to clean it up. He's going to drain it, and he's going to make our country great again. I love him, too. He's a great American. And, you know, we said to him, we want you to come not from the political world, Mr. President, Mr. Trump at the time in 2016, come out of the business world and come here and help us straighten up this mess in Washington, D.C. and get us back on a right track. We asked him to do it. He did it. And then we had a brief interruption. Something terrible happened in 2020. And we're going to correct it in 2024, I got to tell you. So listen, please, I urge you, go out and make Donald Trump the 47th President of the United States. It's only happened once before in history. Grover Cleveland, his wife said, don't change the curtains, I'm coming back. So we're coming back, and we're going to take over Washington, D.C., and we're going to straighten out America, and you're going to help Donald Trump do it. Thank you. God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Nashua Trump City Chair, Di Lothrop.
Welcome. I'm Di Lothrop. I'm the Nashua City Chair for the New Hampshire Trump campaign. And I'm honored to be speaking here today. For those of you who don't know me, I was born in the UK, and a lot of people tell me I talk funny. Oh, no, I don't either. But now I'm a very proud American citizen. And I support President Trump. As the wife of a veteran, I am proud of my husband, Chuck Lothrop, for his service to this great country. He, along with the thousands of veterans for Trump, deserve so much more than what they got with the Obama-Biden administration and now under the Biden-Harris, is that her name? Regime. Right? Where would we be without the courage and the bravery of our men and women, two genders? Our country is proud of you all. They served and fought for our freedoms, and they got nothing from Obama and Biden except massive budget cuts for the military, not to mention Biden's disastrous pullout of the war in Afghanistan that left 13 dead soldiers. If President Trump was in the White House, those 13 people would still be among us now. Those deaths are on Biden. President Trump is your champion, and he kept his promises to the veterans. Trump has true grit, and he's the best fighting spirit of a leader in my lifetime. He knows you fought for your country, and he's ready to fight for you once he gets back in the White House. And we were a strong country under President Trump, and the world respected our strength. But now we're seen as weak under Biden, and the world is laughing at us. That is some bullshit. Well, I guess I don't need to say, I'm not going to take it anymore. How about you? And finally, if I hear one more liberal say, talk about how President Trump tried to overturn the 2020 election, I'm going to puke. Let me be clear. He was asking to challenge the votes, not trying to overturn the election. And Mike Pence is disingenuous. The Electoral College Act of 1887 is a U.S. federal law, and it allows a provision to challenge the certification of votes. The law states that objections must be made by one member each of the Senate and the House. In the last 20 years, Democrats have objected 3 times. In 2001, 2005, and 2017. Their objections were thrown out because they couldn't find a Democrat senator who was brave enough to certify the challenge. In 2020, Republicans had a senator Ted Cruz. He was brave to certify the challenge. So riddle me this. How is it acceptable for the Democrats to challenge the vote, and yet the same objections were made by Republicans are called overturning the election? It's called cheating and deception. And Mike Pence is right in the middle of it. He's nothing more than a snake. And he's losing big time in the polls. All these manufactured and false crime indictments against President Trump are a sham. But they're not going to deter us. We'll fight through our words. To paraphrase another hero of mine, we shall fight them on the beaches. We shall fight in the fields. We shall fight on the streets. We shall fight in the schools. We shall never surrender. God bless President Trump, and God bless the USA.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage former state senator and Marine Corps veteran, Bob Guida.
Wow! What an honor to be here. 77 years ago, our forefathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Today we're engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation can long endure. That was a speech given after the Battle of Gettysburg by the founder of the Republican Party and the freer of slaves, President Abraham Lincoln. My friends, the danger to our country today is even worse. 53,000 men died in 3 days at Gettysburg. Okay. We are in a country now that is under attack. Those of us who are veterans swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The enemy today is both foreign and growing bolder and stronger, and domestic and committed to eliminating the republic which we served in arms. Freedom is not selective persecution of political opponents. Freedom is not pushing critical race theory into our children and establishing the poison of hatred in our children. Freedom is not transgender ideology in our schools that's being promoted. The Democrats have confused freedom with hedonism, the wanton pursuit of pleasure without accountability. But freedom has accountability. You as veterans and I as a veteran understand that accountability, because at some point we are going to have to stand. That point is approaching with this election. As a state senator, I looked at the systems of government, statewide and also nationally. And you look at societal trends. In 48 of the 50 states in this country, children are born between 25% and 56% to unmarried mothers. That is not the sign of a civilization on the rise. It is the sign of a civilization on decay because our leaders have abandoned our Christian faith. That is the root. That is the root of our legal system. We have leadership, if you wish to call it that, at the national level that is openly defying the laws of our nation and the constitutional obligations in that office. People coming across the border unchallenged because of policies put in place by this president are killing our children. Okay? Right here in New Hampshire. Okay? China is feeding the makings of fentanyl to Mexico and then importing it to our country and killing our children and our adults. Under President Trump, China, Iran, North Korea, Russia were at bay. The man stood for America and made it known that we would not brook any nonsense by these dictators and these tyrants. With the advent of the Biden presidency, all the bad actors are acting up. North Korea firing missiles, Iran developing nuclear weapons, and so on. We need a leader that is a warrior. I can think of no one better than Donald Trump, battle-scarred, weary, fighting for me and my children and grandchildren and yours. Okay? We need a warrior in Washington who will challenge the swamp. We need a warrior in Washington who represents the people. That is you, that is me, that is our grandchildren. And so I'll close by reading something that Ronald Reagan wrote. You've probably heard it before, but I don't want to misquote it. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for. It must be protected and handed on to them for them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was like when in the United States when men were free. We're veterans. We've served once. We need to serve again. If not us, who? And if not now, when? God bless Donald Trump. Let's give him a really good welcome when he gets here. Thank you.
Stand up and salute, we'll always recognize when we see old glory flying. There's a lot of men dead, so we can sleep in peace at night when we lay down our head. My daddy served in the army, where he lost his right eye, but he flew a flag out in our yard till the day that he died. He wanted my mother, my brother, my sister and me to grow up and live happy in the land of the free. Now this nation that I love is falling under attack. A mighty sucker punch came flying in from somewhere in the back. Soon as we could see clearly through our big black eye, man, we lit up your world like the 4th of July. Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list, and the Statue of Liberty started shaking her fist, and the eagle will fly, and it's gonna be here when you hear Mother.
24. Oh, absolutely. Trump is a rock star, and what it is we need at this time more than ever for him to do what he's already done. And I think that was the thing that put him apart from most of the people that were in the running, is all these people are campaigning saying that they're going to do what President Trump already did. We need the low unemployment. We need the cheap gas. We need the secure border. And we need common sense back in the White House. This is painful to watch what's going on at the Capitol.
You know, it's funny because when you look at the economy and, Bidenomics, and I think we can all agree that I don't know, they must have just, thrown a dart at the board to come up with that plan. How destructive it is, and to put an actual label to it and brand yourself. I don't see how Biden can run in 24 based upon performance of the economy.
Biden can't run anywhere. He is ridiculous. I mean, you're correct. Why would you put your name on this dumpster fire? I always tell people before you go vote, check your 401k, fill up your gas tank, and go to the grocery store. This is ridiculous how people are celebrating this high inflation as if it's a good thing. Well, it used to be 9%. It's ridiculous. We need money back in the American people's pocket. These are kitchen table issues. Americans suffering, and we got billions going over to the Ukraine. I mean, to the point where people are going to have to claim them on their tax returns.
Yeah, I thought about claiming a citizen of Ukraine. But you're right on that, because we send about $1 billion a month. And let me rephrase that for a second. That's $1 billion a month that goes to Ukraine. That funds their pension, that funds their keeps the lights on there. And I think with the economy like it is, Americans are starting to realize, Raven, this is not what they want. 55% of Americans polled just recently want us to absolutely pump the brakes on funding Ukraine, because it looks like there is no end to this. This is like the slow drip to Vietnam. This is how we got engaged with that. Americans are turning away from that. So I think as the Democrats lean into Ukraine, that is another element that could basically backfire on them.
Well, absolutely, because the logistics and head by AOC, who I consider to be the poster child for useless people, of just going, this is an economics thing. It's not sustainable. There's never been a universe or an economy that has been able to spend its way out of debt. We can't keep throwing money at this problem, which is what the Democrats love to do. So Americans are feeling it hard, and you're supposed to be our priority. We are American citizens. You secure our border, you make sure Americans have first, and then we take care of the rest, and everybody else is letting us pull the load. And that's what we saw under President Trump, of somebody making people going, hey, you're part of NATO, you're part of these agreements, start paying your share, start pulling the load. Hey, you want to do this? We're going to put a tariff on it. I mean, it was absolutely checkmate, boss mode with President Trump, and we need that economy and our border secure, especially here in Texas, more than ever before.
Yeah. Raven Harrison joining us on this pre-show, as we'll continue to give you a live look whenever President Trump steps on the stage there in New Hampshire. He is scheduled for a 2:30 local time there in New Hampshire. Until then, we'll bring it to you live here from our Dallas, Texas studios. Thanks for joining us. Let's talk a little bit about your podcast. You're a personality. You ran for political office, had a good run at that. And I teased this early on about Texas. People talk about Texas turning purple. What say you on that notion?
Not on my watch. It is what you're seeing is that there's a little effort we have to put in. I tell people there's a difference between being patriotic and being a patriot. And we need patriots. It takes some work. So you can definitely see the influx coming in. The Beto maniacs, as they call them down here, came in and brought all their policies, and they campaigned hard in Texas.
Well, Hollywood campaigned hard in Texas, and I think that's what you saw a lot of the times is when she talks about these Beto signs, they were everywhere. And actually, if you drive around Austin, Raven, you can still see a lot of Beto signs.
The trick is to not drive around Austin.
Okay, well, that's a good point.
But no, you do. But the important thing was just showing that, Texans do what Texans do, which is we basically remind them what it is to Texas. You're fleeing, whatever you're fleeing, don't bring it here. Don't vote for that mess that you couldn't live under wherever you were. And that's the important thing is here, this is Texas, and we fought back. We pushed back against the Beto. We pushed back against this globalist takeover and all these people. This is Texas. I tell people we only serve leaded in Texas, but we are willing to fight, and the patriots are standing up. We're protecting our guns, we're protecting our freedoms, and we're protecting the Constitution was not a guide Biden.
And
it's not a guide.
And it's not a working document where you can edit on the fly either. I think that's one of the things that we do a lot. They think they can just erase gun rights. Let's talk about some of the things that might be concerning to Texans. I mean, you go out and talk to a lot of people. You talk to people on your show.
Yes.
You talk to people out in the community. What is the number one concern to Texans right now in terms of what's going on in the state of our country?
The thing that I hear more often than anything else is the border. The southern border. There is so much misinformation put out there. It's closed. Biden says it's closed. Well, Biden says his hair smells good too. It's not closed. It's open. And what people don't realize is the catastrophic impact it has on Texas. We're talking about 9 million people coming in 16,000 a day, coming in with brand new cell phones, but they need housing, they need food, they need all of these resources to sustain them. I think I've heard estimates saying it comes out to like 60,000 per migrant. Well, who is supposed to foot the bill for that when they come here? And they're clipping through the razor wire, they're walking on in, and now Biden's given them an app to say, you know, there really now is an app for that, of an app to come in. And what people don't realize, that means our roads are, our infrastructure is crowded, our hospitals are crowded, our schools are crowded. Americans are struggling, but yet we are handing out money and resources, and the court system is a joke. They're saying, well, it's secure, it's closed. It's not. There are no ports of entry in the middle of the river. And that's where they're coming in. Nobody's American dream should start by breaking the laws of this country.
I said this earlier. I mean, none of us are against immigration. That's how this country was founded. I mean, you talked a lot about being a Native American, part Native American. Obviously, you're the OG here in this country, right? So none of us are against that. We just are against illegal immigration, and which is hurting this country. We talked a little bit about. I saw an article today about the Southwest airline flight attendant that flagged a biracial family, white mom, African-American daughter, I believe. The flight attendant felt that there were some suspicious things going on, so she alerted the authorities there when they landed in Denver. And so as far as sex trafficking or anything like that, that turned out to be like, you know, obviously now she's suing Southwest Airlines for unclaimed damages on that. But that brings me to this topic of the reason why we need to shut our border down and control it, because there's a lot of sex trafficking and human smuggling going across our southern border. I mean, Sound of Freedom, thank goodness that film was made, because it was able to shine a light on that. But that is something that we need to get a hold of, and one way we do it, Raven, is to control the border.
We have to, and it's important to put actual facts. I hear a lot of people who watch television and go, well, you know, CNN says this, and, you know, guys, come on, we live here in Texas, and let me tell you, I've been to the border, and many of us have, and Sound of Freedom. It's not what you think. The arguments that people say that this is just people who were here, they want to do the jobs Americans not doing. Well, then why do they need aid and support? But when I went down to the border, I didn't see, you know, poor families struggling to break free. I saw fighting age men. I saw 30% Chinese nationals. We have all the countries represented. We also had 2 cases of leprosy come across the border. So this is what happens when these people are coming in without the health screenings and the sponsorship that we require from anybody else wanting to come into this country legally, who are waiting in line. And we have these people coming in, brand new cell phones, and that makes us a sponsor of this sex trafficking. They come in with these bracelets, Brian, of indebted. Nobody comes across that border without going through the cartels. So some of these bracelets have fallen off because they've come off children. Mm-hmm. And so they come into this country in debt to terrorists. Yeah. It's unreal. And people are just going, well, they have a right to come here. They have a right to seek a port of entry in a legal manner. They do not have a right to get wire cutters and cut off and go into the river and risk the lives of our DPS and Homeland Security going in to fish them out because they are breaking the law.
Raven Harrison joining us on this pre-show as we make our way into the Trump's remarks there in New Hampshire at the high school. We saw a good crowd there, packed in there.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about Trump's polling numbers. Now, we had Carolyn Levitt. She is spokesperson for MAGA Inc. The latest poll has Trump up 35 plus points in New Hampshire. Now, I often compare that to a sports team. If your sports team was down 35 plus games in their own division, you could pretty much write off that your team's not going to make the top spot. In politics, we don't do that. What's your thoughts on the polls right now, and why does he have such a dominance lead, not only in New Hampshire, but across the country?
Well, I just feel I say I'm not a Trump fan, I am the Trump fan, but because he is a force, he has shown that he has the ability to withstand these attacks, and essentially, he is America first. He cares what Americans' experience are. And the polling numbers are reflective of this trajectory. I always say the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. Ever since they have attacked him, since he came down those golden escalators, his numbers have gone up. Impeachment 1, they went up. 2, up. And then the raid. He is showing that he's weathering it, and he exposes more of the swamp creatures every day that he does it. But he's a force. They're trying to stop him and break him. They can mock him, they can insult him, but they can't stop him. He is going forward, and that's what we need right now. We need somebody, as you put in the sports team, we're ready. This is the fourth quarter, and we need our star player to run that thing right into the end zone, and that's where we are.
I think he's also resonated with so many Americans, not only Republicans, but he's also resonated with a lot of independents.
Yes.
The numbers are up because people have seen exactly what the policies under the Biden administration has done to the average American. Take the mean tweets out, take all the truths out, take all the social media posts out, and just ask yourself, is your life better now than it was 4 years ago? And without a doubt, the world is more toxic than it was 4 years ago. The world is chaotic crime-wise.
Yes.
It's more expensive to live. And I think that we had way more stability back then than we do now. So, Raven, I see these poll numbers go up because more independents, and I'd say to a certain extent, old school Democrats.
Yes.
This is not the Democratic Party, and we could talk a little bit about that in a second, but this is not the Democratic Party that it was 20 years ago.
Correct.
It's just not there.
Correct. It is a different party from when JFK was in there, but that's what you're seeing. Independence. It is the same Reaganomics, as I call it, the peace through strength doctrine. Trump is the one you want at the schoolyard when you're getting roughed up by the bullies. You want that tough kid. You want the one who's going to, and we had that. Everything they have accused Trump of. He's going to get us into wars. He's going to crash the economy. He's going to, make us less safe. Everything they accused is now happening in real time under Biden. It's not a state of mind. We have a wide open border. He's literally tripping over air at this point. We found cocaine in the White House in one of the most secure places on the planet. We're finding all of these things, and it's just scandal after scandal after scandal, and every time they go after Trump. And you're seeing the polling numbers reflect saying, man, this guy is straight ahead. He's not going to be detoured. He's not going to be, taken advantage of. And that's what our enemies, above all else, need to see right now, is that we have power and strength. Our enemies don't respect us, and you're seeing that play out.
All right, well, hold that thought. I want to talk about one of our partners today. That is the Birch Gold Group. We've talked about the economy, and we'll continue to discuss that. But with all this talk of getting rid of the dollar and going to this digital currency, which I can't under any circumstances imagine that would go well, it might be time for you to diversify and look into gold, silver, and precious metals. And our friends over at the Birch Gold Group can help you take that first step in making that educated decision to not only transfer, they'll show you how to do it for a traditional IRA to go into a gold-backed IRA. And no one's suggesting that you should do all of your investments, but it is wise to look at it. And so many of our viewers have done just that. The Birch Gold Group, take that first step. Simply text the words Trump to 989898. That is Trump to 989898. Pretty easy to remember that. Take that first step into investing in gold, silver, and precious metals, because when we look at this global stage that we're on, they want to take us down economically. We've seen exactly what China's trying to do. And really, I tell you who's taking us down indirectly is Ukraine by draining us of all this military stuff. So your thoughts on the economy moving forward? I know gas here in Texas is relatively lower than most gas. Let's just say on the West Coast, it's much higher. But, you know, I was talking to an oil expert before this show started, and they said, Brian, you know, we've got more rigs that are active outside of the U.S. than we do here in the U.S. And I looked up the petroleum reserves. That was such a big story, if you remember that.
That's right.
We were draining it. The Biden administration back on August 3rd stopped the movement to basically refill our petroleum reserves because oil was too high to do it, and he wanted to save the Americans money on refilling that. I say he made it difficult for us on day one of his administration by cutting all of the regulations and also basically handicapping our oil manufacturing capability here in the U.S. What's your thoughts on oil?
Absolutely spot on. That was one of his first executive orders, was to shut down our pipelines, and we were this close to energy, not only independence, but dominant, to a point where we were exporting. That's jobs for American. And oil and petroleum products are the lifeblood. They're not going to want to hear this, but you know, these electric cars are all fueled by dirty fossil fuels. You know, and what does it mean to people? It means your phones, the plastics your phones are made out of, your heating oil, all of these things. So he shut that down day one and has put us in a position where we're begging for oil from countries that hate us. So the price has gone up, and he emptied our strategic reserves to get a couple of cents, to knock down a couple of cents. So great, it's not $8 a gallon, it's $7.98, and we're good. But this is what people need to understand, is now we need to have those reserves were meant to be, and this is coming from the daughter of 2 retired Air Force colonels, those were supposed to be for Americans should war come, should we have times for Americans to be able to heat their homes and get where they need to go. We've emptied our ammunition out in Ukraine. We don't have enough to give them. They're saying, give us more ammo. We don't have it. Mm-hmm. So he has really put us in a position where we don't have military readiness. We don't have an economy. Economy's on life support. And we don't have the energy and oil dominance that President Trump had already achieved. We had a secure border. We had cheap gas. We had low unemployment. We had a thriving stock market. It was all of those things, but mean tweets. Okay, guys.
Yeah, it's interesting when I meet someone that likes to kick back and go, well, I just can't take some of his social media stuff. I just want to say, grow up. We're not electing someone for an 8th grade student body president. We're electing someone that can run this country like a business that it is. You're taking a live look right now on the left side of your screen. Great crowd there in New Hampshire as the high school. Could you imagine this is your first day of school, or maybe you start school tomorrow and the president's making an appearance at your high school? That has got to be pretty cool. I kind of wish Trump would have, you know, at the day and age, if someone like Trump could actually visit at my high school. And
I'm telling you, that would have been it, Brian. Class is over. This is it. This is your lesson for it's Trump.
Here's your history, your economic lesson, your civics lesson, your foreign policy
and
lesson.
Your social media presence.
There you go. That is a great look there, New Hampshire, and we'll get to that. He is scheduled to speak, by the way, at 2:30 their local time. We'll bring that to you as well. Taking a look at the polling, we said this earlier, Caroline Leavitt tuned in with us. It is 35 plus points across the board. You know, you've got some of his, you know, you've got the Will Hurds of the way, which is a Texas congressman running there for president, and sharp decline. I mean, being an outright critic of the president, Chris Christie being very critical of him. I think if there's anything they can learn from all of this is don't attack the president, because when you attack the president, you're attacking a large percentage of base of voters. And they're just not going to take it very well.
Well, that's it. And I noticed that was DeSantis' strategy coming out, was he compared himself to Trump and then he attacked Trump. And all of them are doing this. And again, What is the strategy behind this? Trump is the force, but it's the same doctrine that the Democrats have.
Right.
They have put him in the press every day. They have put him in the forefront of everything. I think they're doing a better job of campaigning for him than all these people who were attacking him. But correct, all these people who were attacking were at one point getting favors. I mean, DeSantis was down in the polls for governor before President Trump endorsed him.
Just a couple nights ago in South Carolina, President Trump told the story of how that all went down. And of course, it was a week before the election, and DeSantis reached out to Trump and for a little bit more than a week for that endorsement. He gave that endorsement and then went into, I think he had 3 rallies there in Florida, got DeSantis across the finish line. I think that's why the base so much is resentful towards DeSantis. They feel like it's not his time, that Trump has an agenda that he'd like to finish. And we feel like the 2020 election, they had widespread discrepancies, which did not enable him to win that election fairly. Right. And so it's his time to come back. So people see the fact that Trump did so much for DeSantis. And then for DeSantis to come out and say, well, when he was asked months ago whether or not he was going to run for president, and he said, I'd rather not answer that question. And you can look up what Trump's response to that was, because it's pretty interesting. I just feel like this primary is over.
Yes.
In my opinion, I don't think statistically anyone can come back and beat Trump and get that nomination unless they do it legally through the court system, and that's what they're trying to do right now.
Well, it is, but it's also, that's the Democrats' doctrine. They all lock arms. They are all in unison, no matter how absurd Biden's policies are. They are all lock and step for it. And I think that was part of the strategy of putting Kamala in there, the princess of word salad, was to make sure that we wouldn't impeach Biden, because nobody wants that. Nobody wants what's done behind door number 2. But with DeSantis, that is exactly it. Is where is the loyalty? We have to do better, especially as conservatives, Republicans. We need to unify. And how do we do that when you're basically taking aim at the person who helped you? You asked for his help and he gave it to you. Yeah. And now it's, you just couldn't wait to be part of that. That would have been a dynamic team to have the two of them together. But I stand with President Trump. I mean, what it feels like a betrayal, because it was, and the voters have responded as such, as saying, hey, what we want. I don't want someone to give me campaign promises. I really love Trump's promises made, promises kept. We know he can do it. He's already done it once. So that's a different argument to say, do what you've already done, instead of somebody saying, oh, I can do it, just like Trump. I'm Trump light. We don't want Trump light. We want Trump ultra.
Yeah, that's a good point on that. Okay, let's turn our attention to the Democratic Party. I don't like to talk about them too much, but why not talk about them a little bit? We had Christina Bobb on earlier. We both think that, and I said this 2 years ago, so I'm not like I'm jumping on a bandwagon right now. I don't think Biden is your Democrat nominee. I think it's Gavin Newsom. I think there's a reason why he's having a head-to-head debate with Ron DeSantis. This is just not for grins and giggles. This is for a head-to-head to let the American people see who the establishment views as the contenders for the 2024 presidential election. They are hedging that President Trump will be basically off the ticket due to all the legal complications, and they're hedging that Biden, due to his popularity, or his drop in popularity, his poll numbers, the economy, the endless war in Ukraine, the personal. Well, I mean, his mannerisms. He's not a man of strength. Obviously, he's aging, and God bless him. But they view this as the presidential campaign. It's Biden. I'm sorry, it's Newsom versus DeSantis. I think Newsom is the nominee. I want to get your thoughts on that, because I know that a lot of people disagree with me, because they think that Biden has to stay in office because of all the corruption that he's under, and they need someone to control. And Biden is the person to do that, because there's something on there, and you guys can look it up. I almost is very hesitant to even say it on the air, but it's called Operation Snow Globe. And if you take a snow globe and you have somebody in the middle of it, as long as you obey everything, it's all great. But as soon as you get out of line, they shake it up. And what that is problems swirl, controversy swirl, maybe things that you've done in the past swirl up, and it really spins your world into chaos, if you will. I think they need Biden to control some of the things they need, but they know the general population is not behind Biden for re-election. Therefore, it's got to be somebody new. I think it's Newsom. What's your thoughts?
Well, I think that's a very well put. This has all been strategy. They didn't expect him, in my opinion, as a strategist, to fall apart as quickly as he did. But he is. He is deteriorating rapidly. They know that they can't use Kamala. So what they're doing is they want to upgrade this nepotism, because everybody knows that Gavin Newsom is Pelosi's nephew. If you want a little bit more on that, let's just check our governor of New York is what, the stepsister of Pelosi? It's crazy how this family works. But the issue is they are trying to keep, it's like, do you remember where they had the finger in the dam and then another hole breaks in the dam, and by the time you've got all his fingers and toes? That's where the Democrats are right now. They're trying desperately to keep up with scandal palooza that's going on over here and try to prep Newsom behind the scenes for a run. But the problem is Gavin Newsom got more signatures on his recall petition than he did for the votes he got to supposedly become governor. He is not any more popular than Biden and Kamala. So they're trying to prep this now, why they keep the rein off of Biden's head. I do think that they're going to make I think they're trying to talk Michelle Obama into it behind the scenes.
It's interesting. People have brought that up to me. I don't buy that. But I think it's I think it's a play. It's a strategy. I don't think Michelle Obama wants to come out of her life right now. I mean, they've got the Obamas are done. They've sailed into the retirement. I'm not sure if
except for this third term he's running through Biden.
Well, of course, we got that too. I just don't think it happens, but it's a possibility. Who knows?
I think that they like to keep that threat there to keep everybody on, but why didn't they get behind RFK? He's got the name, he's got the presence to do it, and it's very telling that the Democrats are kind of like, who? He's like the redheaded stepchild in the room. They're not even talking about it.
All right, quick check of the time. It is coming up on 2 o'clock on the East Coast. President Trump is scheduled to take the stage at 2:30. Thanks for joining us, Raven Harrison. Brian Glenn joining you from our Dallas studios. Nice place to set up shop for the day. I got to say, it's a little hot here in Texas compared to probably what it feels like in New Hampshire, but glad to be here to be able to do this with you today. Programming note, we don't have on the calendar right now any additional rally scheduled on the books that we know of. Now, I'm sure, obviously, President Trump's going to be rolling those out shortly, but we will stay on top of any type of legal proceedings in terms of Trump and where that might happen. Obviously, I think we all might have seen the notice on social media that the Fulton County around Georgia, around the courthouse, has put out a bulletin advising certain workers work remotely these first 2 weeks going into August. That might indicate some type of legal proceeding that might happen there, but we're definitely going to stay on top of that. Well, you're glad you're joining us. We did talk about some of these indictments. Let's go to the one that just happened in D.C., Raven, because the seditious conspiracy, this is the one for January 6th, trying to pin the acts of January 6th on President Trump at the time. And we kind of knew that might be the one that would have some teeth, so to say, because of the classified document, the handling or the mishandling of classified documents. That was a part of the first two for the most part. But this one was it had to do nothing but January 6th. I don't think the American people is going to buy this thing because it's going to be it's a stretch to try to pin that President Trump for a fact knew that he lost the election but was lying, trying to mislead the American people and trying to overturn an election. I don't think they're going to be able to prove that. I don't think he genuinely knew that he lost the election. I think that he knew there was some discrepancies in the election. I mean, heck, we had Christina Bobb on here talking about it. I don't think this goes anywhere, but I will say this. It's in D.C. The judge is known to be very harsh towards J6 defendants, even when the prosecution wasn't even really wanting that much jail time, but she was giving them jail time anyway.
Right.
So I don't know what to expect from this personally, but this will be probably one of many that you're going to see just like this.
And what's disappointing is this is how our justice system, our two-tiered justice system is working lately. They have, they want to have roots and wings. They're in both sides. So they're saying right now for President Trump to exercise his right to petition his grievances and say, I don't believe we need to make sure that all the evidence is seen. There's some irregularities we need to investigate. They're calling that spreading of misinformation. But when Hillary Clinton literally wrote a book saying that she thought the election was rigged. Stacey Abrams, went on a tour of saying and refused to concede, refused to accept anything other than she was governor. And that, no indictment. Even with the classified documents, President Trump as president had the authority to declassify anything that he chose to. Biden as vice president, and now Obama has admitted he had documents. Pence admitted he had documents. So did Hillary and Bush. None of them have the authority, but no indictments. Literally, you're trying to attack his First Amendment. He has the right to say, hey, can we make sure? And if you're going to prosecute him, how are you going to do that? And now they've given his lawyers the gift that keeps on giving. We can now subpoena power for all these people involved in the election. Checkmate, Donald Trump.
Yeah, this is probably what they would want in the very end, is to expose some of that stuff. All right, I want to take a quick. I want to shout out to this is a great sponsor. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can make sure I get all my copy notes here. These are these tumblers. Now these are patriotic, Tervis-made, 100% in the USA tumblers. Includes a lifetime guarantee. Now that means for whatever reason why you don't like these tumblers, you can simply return them and they will basically replace them. These are, here's the styles you have to choose from. The information, I'm sure, is on your screen. We the People, pretty cool.
Yes.
Don't Tread on Me, like that. And Home of the Free, Because of the Brave. These are vacuum insulated to keep your beverage piping hot up to 8 hours, and also ice cold as well, up to 24 hours. I could have needed that yesterday out here on the tennis courts. Anyway, go check it out. It's double wall vacuum insulated to keep your beverage hot and cold. Also leak proof as well. Go check them out. The website, let's see if we got the website on here. Anyway, it's on your screen. Made in the U.S. Go check it out, because you know what? We need partners like this. And when these companies step up to offer a product that's made in the USA, that is themed around conservative values, and they're willing to put themselves out there. We've seen what happens when companies go the other direction. Let's reward those companies that support programming like this. So go check it out, those Tervis tumblers. Get the We the People, Don't Tread on Me. Go get one of those designs made right here in the USA. And I tell you what, you got kids going off to college right now. You've got high schoolers about to start school. Why not get them a tumbler? So when they go to class, can you imagine a college professor walking in and all of a sudden you've got this Don't Tread on Me tumbler right there on your desk that just says, I love this country. I'm not going to put up with your crap.
Yes.
And I'm going to enjoy my coffee for the morning. So go check it out. These Tervis tumblers, we're glad to have them as a partner here on today's network. It is 1:02 here Central, 2:02 back on the East Coast. Raven Harrison joining me. She has a show. We haven't really told people how to find your show. We kind of jumped right into policy, but I'd like to give you a chance to maybe promote what you have and how people can find you.
Well, I'm telling you, we're doing a lot of things. They always say God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies who he calls. And I feel honored to be in that walk. So yes, we do have a podcast that's on all platforms called Raven's Radar. And we're really telling people, instead of just telling them what's wrong, we got to tell them what's wrong, what we're going to do about it. Who are the frontline fighters? And that was great for the tumbler. Go out and get your tumblers, patriots, because we vote with our wallet.
Yeah.
Don't fund people who are selling you out. And I also have a book, Raven's Mantle. It's Fighting the Betrayal of America. It tells how I became the conservative warrior and what dropped us in. Spoiler alert, my 8-year-old daughter was thrown out of school for voting for Trump in a mock election in her elementary school. They expelled her from school and poked the giant. And we have a saying in Texas, you mess with the bull, you get the horn. So now I am on the case to fix our America.
So let's walk back on that just a second, because that's interesting. A lot of our viewers, probably the majority of them, don't know this story. Your daughter was kicked out of school for voting for President Trump. Yes. During a mock election in a classroom. How old is she?
She is now 13. She was 8 at the time, and we got a call 10 minutes before the end of school saying, come get her, there's been an incident. And so we went running to the school and to find one hysterical 8-year-old crying like I've never seen her before. And I said, why does she look like this? And they said, well, we had an election today in school. I said, you're studying civics? And she goes, no, but your daughter voted for Trump. And we were just like, so? She's 8. She can't vote, but I'll high five her later. But we had no idea that I had never heard of CRT. I had never heard of this. And they said she's being expelled. I said, she's being removed. I said, you're not going, I'm taking her out. But it just blew my mind. I had no idea that there was really this kind of war going against our children. And from that moment, I was, I just literally said, God, what do you want me to do? And the phone rang and somebody said, have you thought about running for office? And I'm like, anything but that, God. But we did it and just realized that it was time to come to this line, that it can't be just my child. It has to be, and it is, it's a war on our children. It's an assault on our children because they know they can't do anything with us patriots. So they got to get the impressionable and the vulnerable. But it was heartbreaking. But that's when they started dubbing me the conservative warrior. And now I feel honored to be able to step up here and have this fight, because if we don't get this right, our kids have no chance.
And what scares me is this wasn't in Massachusetts, this wasn't in New York, this wasn't in California, this was in Texas when this happened, and that is an indication of how they really have gotten our school system. Look, you would have run this back in the day if someone had said I would have voted for Al Gore or Hillary Clinton or anybody. We don't care. It's just we don't make a big deal out of it. But it seems like Trump has really set off trigger alerts to a lot of people in our system. And it's interesting because I have got some friends that live in New York City, and I've asked them, they're big Trump supporters. I go, well, do you wear your MAGA gear on the streets in New York? And they said, absolutely not. Like you would, that's like
I do. That is
a well, maybe they're not going to hit a woman. I don't know. I mean, maybe that has maybe something to do with it. But it's disturbing that just the words Trump can just bring out so much anger in somebody. And I kind of feel like, we're better than that. We don't judge others because they vote a different way politically. I mean, we could say that their ideologies are messed up, but we don't want to violently attack somebody because they don't like Trump. That's not how I'm wired. That's not how you're wired.
Correct, and that's not how children.
And that's definitely not how children's wired.
They're showing them that hate. But one thing really profound came out of that because it was nowhere on my radar. We didn't talk politics with our children because at that time, I'm thinking they have 18 plus years to be grumpy, politically charged adults, but they only have 18 years to be kids. But here's what's profound. I asked her later, why didn't you, we brought her home and got her calmed down. And she goes, do I have to go back there? And I said, no. I said, you don't have to go back there again. And she goes, good, because I would vote for him again.
That's great.
And she walked out. But the thing that she stood, Brian, against a whole school system, I think back on that and go, she could have changed her vote. She could have gone, oh no, and she stood for President Trump. And I just felt like in that moment, I always liked him. I had voted for him both times, but I realized I'm like an 8-year-old girl did what a lot of people in his camp won't do, which is she stood when the pressure was on. The whole school came down on her. And she knows that her mom had her back, her dad has her back, and I'm telling you, I feel pretty honored to be, she's my hero of going, wow, she stood against the entire establishment and her mom will do no less.
Do no less. Raven Harrison joining us here on our pre-show as we get ready. That's a live look on your screen of what's going on in New Hampshire right now. A big crowd there assembled at the high school there, and he's scheduled to take the stage at 2:30. I want to go back here just for a second and kind of recap what is going to happen when Congress gets back in session here in the second week of September. I know that Speaker Kevin McCarthy has teased an impeachment inquiry on Joe Biden, and I want to unpack exactly what that means. It's basically looking at all the reasons why a vote should occur in order to vote for an impeachment. It's kind of like the step before the major vote for impeachment. I was talking to you off camera earlier that people would be stunned to find out the names that are likely to vote Republicans against the impeachment of Joe Biden, despite all of the evidence that has come out during all of the the SARS reports and the FD 1023 forums, the whistleblowers, all of the stuff that we know. You would be absolutely stunned to know, and I'm not going to name some names now because I don't want to call them out, not yet, because I want them to have an opportunity to do the right thing, I feel like, for the American people. But your thoughts on if you were in the House right now representing your district here in Texas, would you even hesitate for one moment to vote for impeachment inquiry?
Not even a nanosecond, because this is what it is about being brave. We've got to stop this posturing and politicking, and they use these trigger words, like we need experience. Well, the Titanic had experience too. So we have to be careful about that. But no, this is what people are seeing, and especially in Texas. A Republican-led House impeached our Attorney General. And it's caused chaos. It went through on Memorial Day weekend when we're supposed to be honoring our fallen who died for this country. And I think it's now important that you're bringing this to light so people are not surprised. If you don't know what your legislators are voting for or how they're going to vote, now is the time to find out, because we don't need that kind of surprise. This is the time that we need to get behind and do and leave that politics. We have to reach across the aisle. We don't reach across the aisle with communists. We need to do what the American people elected you. You only get to vote for communism one time. So we have got to get this right, and it's important that these legislators stop playing politics and do what the American people elected you to do.
Yeah, and what's funny is when this topic is brought up, many of them say, well, you know what, my constituents back in my district, this is really not what they want. And I say, bullcrap on that, because they are just covering up for a lot of their, I would say, establishment ties that they're trying to cover up from that. We'll get back to that in just a second. But if you are suffering any adverse reactions to the COVID-19 vaccine, if you got the vaccine, whether or not you volunteered for it or you're forced by your employer to get it, and you're not feeling yourself, the wellness company has perhaps a supplement to help you kind of get that pre-COVID, pre-vaccine fill. Dr. Peter McAuliffe is a world-renowned doctor, has developed a special formula to remove that spike protein that's in your system that might be causing you not to feel the best to your ability. And we've seen what has happened. We have several athletes, young, healthy people, suffer some effects from the vaccine. So we're so grateful that the wellness company is there to offer this as an option to improve your health. Now, it's not for everybody, and I'm not certainly a doctor, so I'm not going to advise you to not seek a doctor's recommendations from this, but this is definitely a way to get back to your pre-COVID self. Go check it out, and don't forget to use that promo code RSBN on there so they can track where you came from, who told you to get it, and also there's probably a special incentive on there to use that promo code as well. The wellness company, Make Care Great Again. You got to love that website, Make Care Great Again. And like I said, we're not doctors. She's not a doctor, but we want you to get to your best health ever. Go check it out, the wellness company. And it's interesting. We were talking a little bit about the vaccine mandates.
Yes.
And I was at the White House covering the Operation Warp Speed when that first came out. And President Trump did amazing things to cut the red tape to getting this vaccine, get these companies started on coming up with a way. Now, you get a lot of people that criticize Trump for the vaccine, for getting the vaccine rolled out, but Raven, we understand that this was the most difficult time in human history, that this is something that none of us had ever experienced. So I feel like, obviously President Trump did the right thing, and he knew we had to come up with some type of medical cure to protect people. I don't ever want to discount that. We're very grateful that he did that. He did so much, but with the vaccine, without, going too deep and being able to get kicked off of streaming platforms, we talked about this off camera. I truly believe we will never see this country shut down like we did back in 2020.
Amen.
And I mean, even in Texas, which I think we were on the tail end of shutting down. We weren't on the, we weren't California. We weren't filling skate parks up with sand and basically, taking down basketball hoops to prevent people from playing basketball outside, because God forbid someone plays basketball in Venice Beach. But never again will we see this government shut this country down.
No, and I have to give President Trump kudos. I didn't take it, but he did what leaders do, which is we were facing something unprecedented. He started something. I believe that process got corrupted after he went out of office, and everybody wanted to take credit for it. But this is now not the time to be shaming, patriots. If you took it, and there's help and resources out there. So patriots, be good. Some people didn't have a choice. I mean, they tried to levy that on our household, but that's where it is. When did we get to a point where you tell Americans that they must take this, or they can't keep their job, they can't do this, they can't feed their families? That's not America. I agree.
No, I agree. And especially with churches and what they did with places of worship. You have to close your church down. You can't gather. But you can go to a liquor store, or you can go gamble in a casino, or you can go to a strip club. Those places are okay.
Correct.
But don't worship. We want to take away that. That'll never happen again. So, so my fear is, how do they go about doing? What tactics are they going to do now? Because if that doesn't work, then what will?
Well, my theory is they're not going to go there again, because we're not going to take it. They've been pushing the limits of our freedom to see what we would accept and when we would push back on it. And that's it. Americans have the science fell apart and garbage. But what I think they're going to try now is to go through what they've been trying to institute with the social credit system of the digital currency, of trying to, Brian's a conservative. Let's lock down his bank account. Let's prevent him from being able to feed his family or pay his mortgage. I think that's you're going to see it in the cyberspace. I think that's where they're going to try to attack it this time. But we have to realize, again, in churches, and then we saw depression spiraling. I lost a good friend of mine to colon cancer in March, right after the lockdown started, and not being able to go to her funeral, not being able to say goodbye. But then they have George Floyd, and they've got hundreds of people that was heartbreaking. And that was the lesson to me about this government, is people didn't get to see their loved ones pass away. They were separated in ICUs, and that, just seeing how many people were struggling with depression and alcoholism because our government was trying to rule with an iron fist. And I just say, in these times now, patriots, this is what the Constitution, the Declaration, was not a suggestion. Okay, I can't tell you how many times Biden says, that, it's not absolute. No, it is absolute. That's what it means. They hadn't just finished deer hunting. They had just finished liberating a country. And so these rights are absolute and not granted by the government. That's why you can't take them away, because they don't come from you. And we just need patriots to remember that this is what our founding fathers, they gave us this blueprint so we would know what to do when this came. So when you see President Trump, somebody who's taking the lion's share of the heat and the arrows to protect your freedom, your rights, stand with them. Courage is contagious.
Yeah, courage is contagious. We're probably about 13 minutes away. The last tracking I got on President Trump, that he was on time, which is nice. 2:30 speech there in New Hampshire. Probably going to talk a little about veterans as well.
Yes.
I mean, he's been a big supporter of the military. I know you've got family members that are veterans, and what has happened to our veterans is a disgrace in this country. And I know that Trump wants to and will certainly have a plan to turn that around.
He does. And, having both my parents are retired Air Force lieutenant colonels. My husband's a retired major C-17 pilot in the Air Force. We are patriots in this family. And I'm telling you, to see how happy my parents were when Trump came into office, they felt cared about. They felt protected and supported and empowered, and that he gave them raises and empowered them to do what we need them to do. And our military readiness at this point in time is scary and dangerous. So what we need now is somebody who's pro. We also are seeing a shift of people who are supporting illegals that are coming into our country over veterans. There are charities and Catholic charities in places on the southern border that are kicking out veterans, stepping over veterans to allow, you know, those who have crossed our border illegally to come in. And this cannot happen. This cannot be the way we treat people who fought for this country. You know, all gave some gave all, but these are people, there's a certain kind of person that will run into a burning building and who will defend and serve. And our veterans deserve our respect, and they deserve us to be put on the pedestal they have, because very few people can say that they fought and bled and been willing to die for, you know, their freedom. There's no greater love than those who would lay down their life for another. They deserve better than this. They deserve better than having their pensions raided and having illegals given everything, and they're struggling and suffering. And I'm a big proponent of that. We are going to make sure our military is great again, and President Trump will do that.
Yeah, we also got a live look right now. You can see them, several people taking their seats on the stage, which is an indication that we probably are about 10 minutes away from the president taking the stage as well. So we'll continue to monitor that. We do want to remind everybody to follow us on social media. You can follow me on Truth Social @Brian. You can follow me on Twitter @BrianGlenn TV. That's Instagram and Facebook. And I want to make sure people have a chance to follow you too.
That would be awesome. Glad to be here. But I'm Raven_TX Warrior, Raven the Conservative Warrior, on all of these platforms.
There you go. Speaking of Facebook, I read a story this morning, Raven, that now the truth is out that the fact checkers were nothing more than just a liberal-minded critic that was basically just offering a different counterpart. It wasn't necessarily the truth or not. We kind of knew that the fact checkers, or who's fact checking the fact checkers, we kind of knew that was the case. But isn't it so funny how this has all come full circle with all of the misinformation that was labeled on the internet. I remember I had gotten fired from a previous job for several reasons. One of them being supporting President Trump, but another one was for even stating the fact that I took ivermectin, and it helped me get it. You know, I supported ivermectin. I thought it was definitely an option to stay healthy, and of course corporate media did not want me doing that, and so
Amen. The fact checkers didn't come out until the truth started getting out. I had my account torpedoed by retweeting somebody talking about Hunter Biden's laptop, and I got my account nuked.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how the Russia was all misinformation, and now we look at it and we're like, wait a minute, the laptop's true, and all of the other conspiracy theories were all true. There was a hat that I was given at one of the rallies, and it said Trump was right. And that's when he was right on everything. And so I often wear it in public, and I get people come by and give you a thumbs up and say, yeah, he was right.
I get a lot. Yeah. I wear my hats and everything everywhere. I am like a trigger warning coming down.
To the stage, Chair of Veterans for Trump, Congressman Brian Mast.
You all ready to hear from Donald J. Trump? Well, good. I'm going to tell you a quick story about our president. Now, you got a lot of veterans in this room, a lot of meat eaters, warriors. We got any warriors in here? That's right. Now, one of the most common requests I get from our brothers and sisters in arms is, hey, can you get my retirement packet to President Trump so that he can cross out Barack Obama's name, or so he can cross out Joe Biden's name, and he can write that in there? And you know why we get that request? We get that request not because of the pride that's given to us. We take pride in our service. We get that request because of the pride that President Trump takes in our service members every single day. The way his chin is up, his chest is out. The way when he thinks about us, he has a reverence and respect for the fact that you jump out of planes, you rope out of helicopters, you kick in doors, you go across the lines of our enemies, you bring a fight to our enemies day after day. That's the pride that he takes in you, and that's the pride he takes in America. That's why we love him. So without any further ado, we'll bring out the next President of the United States of America, President Donald J. Trump.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless
Thank you very much. Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you. This is an honor. I just knocked over a fan on purpose here. It was blowing the hell out of my hair. I said, I got to do a good job in front of New Hampshire. I can't have fans. We don't need anything artificial up here, right? We don't need anything artificial. So I just want to say hello, New Hampshire, a special place, a great place with many great friends and great people. I'm thrilled to be back in this beautiful state with thousands of proud, and I mean proud, I mean seriously proud. Look at this. American patriots who believe in that timeless motto, live free or die. Live free. I want to thank all of the people, so many people. You know, we're killing everybody in polls. You do know that, right? I mean, just not by like a little bit, like by 40 and 50 points. We're beating them a lot. But I want to thank my New Hampshire co-chairs, Lou Gargiulo and Windham Selectman Bruce Breton. Bruce is here. And a friend of mine, a great guy, U.S. Senator Bob Smith. Bob, thank you very much. And your beautiful wife. Windham Police Chief Mike Karen. Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much. Mike. Representative Tim Cahill and some of our fantastic supporters, Chris Stevens, David Andrakis, and Dave Aber. Where's Dave Aber? Somebody that's been with me from the beginning. I don't mean like 6 months in. I mean like from the beginning. I guess we're talking like in the 2015s. We don't even go back. We go back to 15s now. But he came, he said, "You're going to win, sir. You're going to win so big." I said, "Really? You think so? Really?" He's a total pro, by the way. So I don't know if he really believed that when he said that, but he said, "You're going to win. You run. You're going to win, sir." And he started with me 6 months before the campaign. And that's all I heard. Sir, it's unbelievable. You're doing phenomenally in the polls. I don't even know if they had any polls. But he got me all psyched up, I will tell you that. And he's also a fantastic person who loves, absolutely loves New Hampshire with his incredible family. And wife is here. The wife is, she's been with him and she loves him and he loves her. They have a fantastic family. Corey Lewandowski. Corey, where is Corey? Where is he? Well, there he is. Always likes to be a little bit in the background. Thank you, Corey. Great job. He's doing a great job. And somebody else who's really been fantastic right from the beginning, I saw her on television this weekend, and I didn't even recognize her. She looked so phenomenal. She was so dynamic, and then I got the television a little bit fixed up, also put on my glasses. And I saw how good she was. Caroline Levitt, she's been fantastic. Where's Caroline? Where's Caroline? Great job this weekend. Boy, you're much better having her on your side, believe me. I said, we better get her on my side. And she's been there for a long time now. Thank you very much, Caroline. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. This afternoon, I'm also delighted to announce the launch of our new coalition, Veterans for Trump, led by true American warrior. You know who that warrior is. He's a tough guy, and he's a great guy, and you just met him. Congressman Brian Mast. Brian, thank you very much. Thank you, man. Great guy. And today I'm especially grateful to receive the endorsement of over 100 veterans from the Granite State, including New Hampshire Veterans Coalition co-chairs, Hillsborough County Attorney John Coughlin. John, thank you very much, John, wherever you may be. Thank you, John. And State Representative Joe Petrie. Thank you very much, Joe. Thanks, Joe. Good, tough guys. I also want to thank my senior advisor. Somebody's been here almost as long as Corey. He's been with us. Steve Stepanak. Steve, thank you. Steve. Thank you, Steve. And State Director Trevor Nudleri. Trevor. Thank you, Trevor. Great job. Thank you very much. And really, we are doing fantastically up here. So that group, I felt we should introduce them. You know, it's nice. If we were doing lousy, I would not have introduced them, I promise. I wouldn't have even thought of it. But they're doing an unbelievable job, and the level is, we're so far above everybody else in the polls. They're all saying, is he going to go into the debate? And I say, I don't know. If you're leading by 50 and 60 and 70 points, do you do that or not? I don't know. Should I? Okay, you ready? Poll. We take a free poll. Should I do the debate? Well, maybe we'll do something else. You know, see, some people say yes, but they hate to say it because it doesn't make sense to do it if you're leading by so much, but they like it for entertainment value because they're selfish. They're selfish. All right. To every veteran in this room, we salute you, and we really do. We worked hard with the veterans, and we've had a fantastic relationship, and this is a very big and important veteran state. I probably learned more about the veterans from dealing in New Hampshire than any other state. Please stand and receive our thanks. All veterans, do you mind? Please stand and receive our thanks. Thank you. That's a lot of veterans. Thank you. Thank you very much. Wow, that's a beautiful... A lot of times they'll say, whatever group it may be, please stand. And, you know, you have like 2 people stand up. I say, well, that's not too much. Let's change our speech, right? But when I came into office in 2017, our government had a disgracefully horrible situation going on. They betrayed its solemn pledge to America's veterans. You know that better than anybody. I learned a lot about it from your leadership in this state. Under the Obama-Biden administration, the VA was plagued by one horrific scandal after another. Remember, you turn on the news and you just see these horrible scandals having to do with the veterans. You didn't hear any of it. For 4 years, you literally heard that very little, and we did things that were really amazing, and I'm proud of. Thousands of veterans were put on secret medical wait lists, and many of them left to die without receiving any care or any aid under Obama. Some very bad people were abusing veterans in VA hospitals, including sadists. You had sadists. They were hitting the veterans when the veterans weren't in prime time, okay? They wouldn't have touched them in prime time, believe me, but they were hitting them when they were in trouble. And a lot of sadists, we got them all out. The VA employees were even caught stealing drugs intended for the treatment of our sick and wounded warriors, and they were stealing them and using them for themselves and selling them. But all of that changed when we arrived at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. We went from the absolutely worst, Brian, you know that. We went from the absolutely worst to, that was the worst presidency for the veterans, the previous presidency. Wonderful people. You're not allowed to even say that. It's not politically correct. I'll say it. To the greatest champion the veterans ever had in the White House. And it was very much promises made, promises kept, and a couple of the really big ones, just as I promised, I proudly signed the VA Accountability Act, allowing us to quickly terminate VA bureaucrats and bad people who mistreated our vets. We told more than 10,000 bad, corrupt, incompetent VA workers, people that were sadists, and they couldn't get rid. You couldn't get rid of them. You had no right. They could steal. They could beat people up. You couldn't do a damn thing, and we got it so you could fire them. And I said, you're fired. Get out. 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 Out of here. 10,000. Sounds like a lot, but it's a big system. And we got 10,000 really bad people out, very, very evil people. They knew who they were. They couldn't do a thing about it. It was amazing. So we got that passed in Congress, if you can believe it. They were trying for 30 years to get it passed. I also signed Veterans' Choice and made that permanent. We got that passed in Congress also, which was really a big deal. That was a big deal. You have choice. You can go out. If you're not getting the treatment, you go out. But thanks to this landmark reform, 3 million veterans have been able to get care as needed and when they wanted it. You know, they'd wait in line sometime for weeks and months. And, you know, they have some great doctors in the VA. They have really good doctors, but you couldn't get to them. You couldn't get to them. People would wait for many months. They'd become terminally ill waiting, something that could have been fixed easily. They'd become terminally ill. And I got it so that you go outside, you get a doctor, we pay the bill, and you get taken care of immediately if you had to wait more than a short period of time. So it was a great thing. It was a great thing. That was a great thing. That was very important. They've been trying to get that, by the way, that one 52 years, Brian. They were trying to get it for 52 years. They couldn't get it done. It just made so much sense right from the first time I heard it. And I heard it first up here from your people. Under the Trump administration, we secured record funding for the VA. We slashed VA waiting times by more than 33%. And even now there's a new chart that came out from our last period that it was 57%. That's a lot. And almost all veterans reported major improvements at their local VA facility once I became president. In fact, we hit an all-time record high of VA satisfaction of 92%. Nobody has even come close. And I got angry at my people. They say he's not a nice guy. Some people didn't like me too much, as you probably heard, because we were tough. We were tough, but they said, why is it 92? Why isn't it 100? And they left the room. They said, this guy's very difficult, but we really mean it. But we hit the highest approval rating we've ever had, and I have to tell you, that approval rating now is not doing so well. You know that. You know that. A lot of bad things are happening over there. What they're doing to dismantle that system that was so good. But to help combat veteran suicide, we delivered same-day mental health care at every VA facility in America and made great strides until Biden came along. Till he came along. In a few short years, we turned the VA from a national embarrassment into a national example of devotion and service and loyalty to the American veteran. It was amazing, an amazing thing and an amazing success. So we got it done pretty quickly. Once we got the legislation passed, I would say it moved along very quickly. Sadly, crooked Joe Biden, and that's what he is, he's a stone-cold thief. Crooked Joe Biden has been a disaster for American veterans. As one of his first acts in office, Biden gutted my historic VA reforms. He gutted them out. making it easier to remove bad VA employees from the job. And in a shocking act of betrayal of America's veterans, as well as the tens of thousands of dedicated professionals, and you do have great professionals at the VA, crooked Joe Biden is in the process of not removing people, but reinstating 5,000 of the 10,000 people that we fired who were fired for good reason, including statism and this, who were fired for very good reasons, and they want to give them back their full pay. They want to give them their jobs back. And we were very careful about that. We didn't get rid of people haphazardly. We got rid of people that were not doing their job, some really in bad cases, and some they just weren't doing their job. They didn't care. They didn't show up to work. And he wants to put at least half of them back, the same people. And it'll cost over $200 million to do that. I'd rather give the money to you directly. It's a lot better. It's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. It breaks your heart. It breaks your heart. That was such a big thing, and now they want to put a lot of those people back. Joe Biden puts bureaucrats first, I put veterans first, and I put America first. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's why today I'm announcing a number of specific actions I'll take to fulfill our sacred duty to our great American veterans. On day one of my new administration, I will fully restore the use of VA accountability. We're going to bring it back in full force. Full force. And we already have the legislation passed, so I don't have to go through Congress, which really, that's why it took 52 years, because they couldn't get it passed. But we have it passed. All we have to do is make it work. So we have the hardest part is done, and direct my Secretary of Veterans Affairs to fire every corrupt VA bureaucrat who Joe Biden has outrageously refused to remove from the job or put back in the job. Then instead of providing more than $200 million in back pay to VA workers like Biden is doing, I will ask Congress to take every penny of those funds to finally build a brand new state-of-the-art VA hospital right here in the great state of New Hampshire. Because I don't know if you know this, but we can say that no longer will New Hampshire be the only state in America without a full-service VA facility. You'll have it, and you'll have it done quickly. We have a great group. Did you know you're the only one that doesn't have one? All right, that's what you get with those Democrats. That's what happens. At the same time, so you're going to have a brand new VA hospital, beautiful, state of the art, top of the line. Top of the line. The only state that doesn't have one. I was waiting for that. Thank you. Who said that, by the way? Stand up. Okay. You know, I was going to say that, but then I thought I'd be politically correct. Thank you. Take good care of her. That's right. Yeah, it's selfish guy. At the same time, well, he ran for president and he got 2 points. He ran without running. You know, he didn't want to announce he wanted to run, but it's a shame. We could win the state so easy if we had help from the governor, but we never got help from the governor. We helped him, but he never helped us. So, but I'm glad you said it, because this way I could say I was so nice up in New Hampshire. No, he's not the same man now. He's not the same. He took a big beating. Knocking the hell out of everybody, and he took a big beating. And then he gets the first poll, and he sees in his own state he was in 7th place out of a group. At the same time, we will fully maintain the VA clinics in the rest of the state and address the severe shortage of nurses and other healthcare workers at the home for the retired veterans in Tilton. Anybody know that home? In Tilton. I will once again make stopping veteran suicide a top priority of my administration. Terrible situation. I will ban the Department of Veterans Affairs from wasting a single cent to fund transgender surgeries or sex change procedures. Spend a lot of money. Those are very, they are very, very expensive operations. And you also know you have to go through tremendous drug therapy after that. And I was always told in the military, if you take much more than an aspirin, you can't do it. But the tremendous drug therapy, it's a lot of problems. We had it stopped, and then he came in. One of the first things he did is he started that up again. Those precious taxpayer dollars should be going to care for our veterans in need, not to refund radical gender experiments for the communist left. I'll also restore the Trump ban on transgender in the military. We're going to end that. We had it banned. I went to generals. I say, General, off the record, what do you think of transgender? Sir, is anybody listening, sir? What do you think? I don't like it, sir. And then I'd say to another one, they were all afraid to talk about it, but, I have to do what's right. You have to do what's right. And we have to help everybody. You have to help transgender. You have to help everybody. But this was just not something that was working out. And as soon as they came back, by a rigged election, by the way, as soon as they... As soon as they came back, they approved that. That was one of the first things on their list. They approved it. So now they're doing a lot of things that shouldn't be done. If you talk to the real generals, not the television generals, the real generals, we got some. Hey, look, I knocked out ISIS in a few weeks with real generals. We have a great military, but we're not going to let our military go woke. That I can tell you. But the real generals in the military, down a little bit. Those guys are incredible. The way they did that, the way they took out a lot of bad people, but they took out ISIS, the ISIS caliphate, 100%, and it was surgical. It was incredible. We will get critical race theory and all other woke lunacy out of the United States Armed Forces. And we will abolish every Biden COVID mandate and rehire every patriot who was fired from our military with an apology and with back pay. And in addition, I will make it a personal mission to totally eradicate veterans' homelessness. I mean, you have a situation in America. It's a scandal. It's a disgrace. What's happening now, nobody's ever seen. And it is a national tragedy that Joe Biden, Crooked Joe, he's more interested in where's the money coming from. To him. He's interested to him. How about all these things with the 30 corporations and the this and the that, the money flowing in, everybody getting money coming in from China? How can you be tough in China when they're paying you a lot of money? And see, they know too much. We have a compromise. We have a Manchurian candidate. They know too much. So he can't be tough in China. That's why he allows blimps flying over the country, right over our nuclear sites. Let them come in. Let them take pictures. Oh, don't do anything about it. They'll tell everybody who's giving me all that money. He's a compromised candidate. And I'll tell you something. Out of respect for the office of president, I didn't talk this way 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. I felt very badly about what was going on. But out of respect for the office of the president, I wouldn't have said the way I talk. He's a crooked person. He's a totally dishonest guy. So we'd say things, but I even changed his name. I took it away from Hillary. We call him Crooked Joe. Instead of Sleepy Joe, we call him Crooked Joe. I retired it. That was a great day for Hillary. Instead of Crooked Hillary, I said, we're removing the name from Crooked Hillary. Now we call her Beautiful, Beautiful Hillary. She's a beautiful woman. And we're giving it to Biden because he's a crooked person. But out of respect for the office, I would never have said that to this extent. And I never did. But now they indicted your president, your former president, who is very popular, 75 million people. They indicted him. So now they ripped off the top, they took the gloves off, and we can say whatever we want. And I'll tell you what, what he's done is a scandal the likes of which this country has never seen, and the fake news hates to talk about it. But it's a horrible thing that crooked Joe Biden has spent nearly $1 billion to house illegal aliens and foreign migrants who are pouring into our country. It's an invasion of our country. We had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border probably in the world. But to house illegal aliens and foreign migrants in expensive luxury hotels, the best hotels in the country in many cases, while more than 33,000 Americans who have served this nation in uniform are homeless on our streets, okay? On day one, I will sign an executive order to cut off Joe Biden's massive spigot of funding for the shelter and transport of illegal aliens, which our country can't handle. And I will redirect that money to provide shelter and treatment for homeless American veterans. They'll be treated properly. Thank you very much. Furthermore, I will finally hold accountable all of the failed leaders and television generals who gave us Joe Biden's catastrophe in Afghanistan 2 years ago this month. In my opinion, you know, I watched a lot of the parents. I spoke to many of those parents. I called them when it happened. What a horrible thing, and what they've gone through. There was no way that was going to happen. You know, we were going out, but we were going to get out with strength, with dignity. What they did when they took the soldiers out first. No, you take the soldiers out last. You take them out last. We went 18 months without one soldier being killed. I spoke to the head of the Taliban. I said, don't do it, Abdul. Don't do it, Abdul. Same man who's still running it. But when you think of that horrible event, leaving untold numbers of Americans behind, 13 dead warriors, 35 horrifically wounded, nobody talks about them, but horrifically wounded warriors, and $85 billion worth of the finest military equipment on the planet, bought by me. You know, we rebuilt the military. I rebuilt the entire U.S. military. A lot of that equipment was brand new, bought by me. It was the single most embarrassing day in the history of our country, in my opinion. I think it was, and I think it probably was what led Putin to say, this is the time. That country has had it. Because I guarantee you one thing, Putin was not going in with me, and neither was Xi going in China into Taiwan. But Putin was not going into Ukraine. And we talked about it, too. And I got along with them great. They hate to hear, you got along with them. Yeah, it's always nice to get along. And, you know, nobody was rougher. Look, I ended the pipeline. Nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2, right, Brian? Nobody heard of Nord Stream 2. I said Nord Stream 2, nobody knew. That's a pipeline going to Germany and taking care of all of Europe. I ended it. It was dead. And then Biden approved it his first week. So what's going on there? Under my leadership, we were leaving Afghanistan with dignity and strength, and we would not, under any circumstances, what that was surrender and humiliation. That's what it was. I think it was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. And we had it so solid. They weren't shooting at us. They knew better because they knew they were going to get absolutely decimated if they did. When I returned to the White House, we will restore peace through strength. That's what we had. We had peace through strength. I'm the only president in many, many decades, like 8 decades, like many, many years, that didn't have any wars. We got out of wars, and we won wars. We beat ISIS. We won wars. But we got out of wars, and everybody respected us. You know, 3 years ago, we were very respected. We were very respected. They didn't play games. Nobody played games, including trade, where we get screwed by everybody. We made great trade deals, even with China. They buy $50 billion a year because of what I did for our farmers and everybody else. And we were respected, and they didn't play games. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars through tariffs on China. No other president took in 10 cents. Hundreds of billions of dollars. They were not too fond of me, but I got along with President Xi also. We gave, you know, I just looked today. I just said, look it up. I was in the plane coming up. I say, look it up. What do we give Afghanistan? Does anybody have that note? I think I gave it to Corey. We give Afghanistan now billions of dollars. I said, I didn't know that. Billions of dollars in aid. A number that is so astronomical, and this goes on a yearly basis, and they need it for humanitarian and all of that. That's good. But let them give us back our equipment. They ought to give us back some of our equipment. You know, we're giving them $2.7 billion and $3 billion and $2 billion. I thought it would say maybe nothing, or maybe $100 million, or maybe something little. But the numbers are astronomical, what we give to Afghanistan. So that should be a condition of the continued aid. I mean, I don't want to hurt people, but they took $85 billion worth. They didn't take, we left because we were fools. We were stupid. We were stupid. I remember a certain general saying, sir, it's cheaper to leave the equipment behind, sir, because we were going to get out. But I would have kept Bagram, because Bagram is one of the biggest air bases in the world. Bagram cost us billions of dollars to build many years ago. And Bagram is 1 hour away from where China makes their nuclear, forget Afghanistan, where China makes their nuclear weapons. It's in Afghanistan. And they left Bagram. Late at night, they left the lights on. They left billions and billions of dollars, 1 hour away from and now China will soon be occupying that incredible base that we built many, many years ago. It's so sad. I mean, these people are just horrible. They're horrible. You know, I told somebody on the way up today, I told Brian, I told a few of the guys, so we did great in 2016. We actually did much better. As you know, we got millions more votes in 2020. The election was rigged. But there is more enthusiasm today than we ever had in 2016 or 2020. And the reason is because these people are so corrupt and they're so horrible. They're so incompetent. The reason is because they're watching. When you look at that border and you see millions of people pouring through our border, totally unchecked, nobody knows where they come from. They come from mental institutions and prisons, and they come from all over the place. 147 different countries last week, people coming in. But when you look at the border, just as an example, or when you look at high interest rates that they've set, high interest rates, when you look at the fact that oil was an all-time high and they say, let's stop drilling. No, when oil is at an all-time high, you start drilling, you know, you make a fortune. We would have supplied all of Europe, everything. We would have supplied oil and gas to Europe. We would have made a fortune. We would have started paying off that big debt that we have, $35 trillion. We would have been paying it off. We would have made a fortune. And this guy stopped it. And now we're getting our oil from Venezuela. How about that one? And it's not even, I should say we're getting our tar. Because they have very bad, you know, they have very heavy, it's like tar, you have to refine it. And for the environmentalists in the group, you know where we refine it? In Houston. It has to be brought. There's only one plant that can refine it. It's like tar, and it's Houston. So all of that spews up into the air of Texas. We get it from there. We have the best stuff. I call it liquid gold under our feet. We don't use it. This is a crazy administration. This is like April Fool's Day. They want open borders. They want no voter ID. They want no paper ballots. They want high interest rates. They want your taxes are going to go up 4 times, they say, 4 times. They haven't been able to break, you know, I got you the greatest tax cut in the history of this country. And they have tried, but they haven't been able to break it yet. But at some point, you know, it expires in another fairly short period of time. So get ready for that one. These people want you to pay much higher taxes. It's crazy. And we could do it so much easier. Everyone can see the stunning contrast between our incredible success and Joe Biden's horrendous failures, and that's one reason why we're leading so big in the polls. That's really the reason, I think. It's more enthusiasm now than 2016 or 2020, because you've seen how incompetent these people are. It's horrible. In the recent Rasmussen poll, we're up 44 points with Trump at 57, Ron DeSanctimonious at 13. And the rest of them down in single digits, really low. And in the morning consult that just came out, I wanted to see, because, you know, every time you get indicted, I like to check the polls, because one more indictment that I think this election's over. One more. No, it's horrible. You get indicted for nothing. Can you imagine a guy? Let's indict my opponent. This is a sick. This becomes a third world country. The latest Morning Consult poll has us far ahead. We're at 59%, and the others are at like 12. One is at 12. I think that's the sanctimonious, but he's rapidly being caught by Ramaswamy. Who's good? No, he's eating right now. He can't be bothered. Sir, please do not call him a fat pig. That's very disrespectful. Don't call him. See, I'm trying to be nice. Don't call him a fat pig. You can't do it. You can't do that. So now, because you're not allowed to do that, and therefore we're not going to do it, okay? We want to be very civil, right? So the latest coefficient poll, which is a big deal, have us almost at 60-13 with our lead over DeSantis growing by 9 points just since a few weeks ago. And even the recent New York Times poll has us up by 37 points, and that was older, you know, now, and Ron DeSanctimonious. The reason I don't like him is that I got him elected. You know, when you get somebody, I don't want to go through the whole story because most of you know, but he came to me, he needed help, he was getting demolished in the primary. Stupidly, I said, all right, I'll do it. Because I didn't know the guy who was running against. His name was Adam Putnam. I said, I'll do it because, you know, he was one of the 200 people that were on television. He was no better than anybody else. He was no Jim Jordan, that I can tell you. And he was on television and fighting a little bit on impeachment hoax number 1 and impeachment hoax number 2. So I said, you know what? If I actually told him, if I were Abraham Lincoln, if we brought him back from the dead, and if we brought George Washington back from the dead, and they gave you the greatest endorsement, and they hugged you and kissed you just like you did to Obama, just like, you know, he did and Christie did. Who hugged and kissed Obama harder, DeSantis or Chris Christie? I think Chris Christie. Remember that? He grabbed him. Obama said, get this guy off of me. And that was the end of Romney when that happened. That could have been a good thing, but... We are in New Hampshire, aren't we? Yeah? That's all right. No, but he asked me. So I said, you know what, Ron, let's do it. Go ahead, let's do it. So I gave him a very strong endorsement. And the next day he went like a rocket right through the thing. And he blew people that worked for Adam Putnam couldn't believe it. They never called me. But I didn't know Adam Putnam. He was the Secretary of Agriculture. He should have called me. I would have endorsed him. Sometimes it's the first one that calls. Sometimes you don't do it at all. But he did. And then I had to get him through Gillum. Remember Gillum? He turned out to be a pothead, crackhead. But everybody thought he was the hottest one in politics. And Ron said, I won't be able to beat him. I said, well, he's the hottest man in politics. I said, you can beat him. Then he comes, he calls me, could you do a rally? Then he actually said, could you do 3? I think I did 3 rallies. We had massive crowds. You know those rallies. We're doing a lot of them. Again, they're hotter now than anything because of what's happening, because of how bad it is. But I did and he ends up winning the election. Then 4 years later, would you run against the president? You know, these maniacs are screaming, would you run against the president? Would you run? Will you run? And he goes, I have no comment. I said, what? Did he say that? I heard this. I'm watching a newscast. I'm watching a fake newscast, and they say, would you run against the president? He shouts out, I have no comment. Now, to me, that means he's running. So I said, that son of a bitch is running. Can you believe it? I just got him elected. So that's why I've been particularly hard on him. And fortunately, it's worked because he's crashing. He's like, he doesn't know what happened. He goes home, he says, what happened? What did I do wrong? You know what he did wrong? He ran. What he did wrong is he should have waited till 28. But I don't know if that would have held water because eventually they would have figured out, you know, you do need some personality if you're going to be a politician. Just a little. Some of them don't have too much. Like your governor, you know. Like your governor. In the new Emerson poll of battleground states in Arizona, we're leading Biden by a lot. And very importantly, at that same poll and in other polls, we're leading Biden by 7, 8, 9, 11 points. But you know what? When I hear we're leading by 2 or 3 or 4 points, you know, you got to understand, that's actually a lot for a Republican because they have a built-in vote that no matter who you are, even if you can't put 2 sentences together, you get like 40. We don't have that. We have to win the entire East Coast, like we did in 2016 and like we did in 2020, too, by the way. So. But they're watching closely. They're watching. In that same poll, we're leading in the primary by 47. Think of that. 40, that's a lot. But we will not play prevent defense. You ever see in the NFL? They don't allow a point on the other team, not a point. Their defense is brutal. They can't get... Now they just have to hold the other team one more series. They have to hold. Just please hold them. Let's go prevent defense. Ping, ping, the end of the game. Touchdown, touchdown. We will not play. Is that okay? We will not play prevent, right? But everyone else is in single digits. Here's one you'll like. In the New Hampshire brand new coefficient poll, respected highly, the New Hampshire Journal has us leading by 43 points. We're leading by. And DeSantis, Ron DeSanctimonious, he's at 9 points. He's at 9. It's time to go back to Florida, Ron, and, work on your insurance that's costing everybody a fortune. And now we're dominating Biden in the general election. Harvard-Harris has us up by 5 points, and we're up 18 points among independents. Remember, they like to go around, well, will Trump get the independents? Will Trump get the women? You know what the women want? The women want safety. They want to have a border. They want to have low taxes, low interest rates. They don't want, in their beautiful suburbs, they talk about, the suburban women. I think the suburban women like me. You know what I did? You know what I did? We have a lot of suburban. No. They don't want to have a low-income housing job built right next to their house. That's what the Democrats want. So I give them strong borders. I give them good safety. I give them a powerful military. Education, so important. By the way, speaking of education, because this is largely about veterans, we are going to bring education back to the states so that each state will run 100%. We'll keep approximately 3 people in Washington just to make sure that you're teaching English, okay, as opposed to another language. Okay, you need a little coordination, like everybody has to teach English, if you don't mind. But we'll keep a little bit of, like 2 or 3 people. But we have building after building after building, and here's the problem. No matter what poll you look at of education in the world, we're at the bottom of the polls. And we spend more money than anybody else. We spend double and triple what number 2 is, like Norway, Denmark, believe it or not, China, very high ranking, Japan. But Norway and Denmark, they said, we're following New York City. They said, we are going to follow the Norwegian system. I said, that didn't work out. You know how long that lasted? About 15 minutes, That didn't work out too well for New York. I'll tell you, New York is sad. Did you see what's happening in New York with the, okay? How about, when I left New York was a proud city. And now it's so sad to see what's happened to that city. And in the big new premise poll, we're beating Biden by a lot, while DeSantis is losing to Biden by a lot. So that's enough of that stuff. But, the polls are phenomenal. People want us back. They remember what we had. We built the economy twice. We built the greatest economy in the world. And then we did it a second time after COVID. But these incredible numbers are the primary reason that crooked Joe Biden has weaponized law enforcement. He has weaponized. He's done something that nobody thought. They talked about it, but nobody ever did it, never to this extent, and ordered his top political opponent, me, arrested. They actually arrested right in the middle of a presidential election that Biden is losing badly. He says, I'm down in the polls to Trump. Let's arrest him. Let's indict him and arrest him. Please indict him and arrest him. He's killing me in the polls. What they didn't know is that I was going to go up. Because the good thing is we have a voice. Somebody gets indicted, you go down usually, right? I would say Corey almost always. You go down, but they know me, and these charges are so Presidential Records Act. It's just exactly for that case. They don't want me to speak about a rigged election. They don't want me to speak about it. Whereas I have freedom of speech, First Amendment. How can my corrupt political opponent, crooked Joe Biden, put me on trial during an election campaign that I'm winning by a lot, but forcing me nevertheless to spend time and money away from the campaign trail in order to fight bogus, made-up accusations and charges? That's what they're doing. I'm sorry, I won't be able to go to Iowa today. I won't be able to go to New Hampshire today because I'm sitting in a courtroom on bullshit because his attorney general charged me with something. Terrible. Thank you very much. No, it is. Think of it. They say charge him. Now, you know, they miscalculated a little bit. You know the other good line? No, actually, we want to run against Trump. No. If they didn't want to run, you have to, they'd say, we would much prefer running against Trump. That's because they had such an easy time when Hillary ran against me. And last time we did much better than that. You know, somebody said we sold hundreds of millions of hats. Somebody said the other day, many polls, you know, in counties we had like almost 3,000. They have 200, so many different metrics. But hats, the red hats, the white hats, all the hats, we sold, even the farmer hats, which are green, right? Make farmers great again. Did I make farmers great again? I got them 28 billion from China. That's why I said, no way I lose Iowa. Why is that? Why are you so confident? Because I got the farmers $28 billion. Nobody else did. But think of this. Somebody said it the other day. I never thought of it. There were red hats all over South Carolina. We had almost 80,000 people. You saw it. We were in this gorgeous area, this gorgeous town. I don't want to say the name of the town because if I do, they'll try and change the name back to, you know, something else. But it was a beautiful, beautiful place, and the sheriff was great. Everybody was great. We had 80,000 people, and it was a sea of red hats mostly, but white also, green and everything. But I'll tell you, you were there, right? 80,000 people. And you took a look at that, and I said, has anybody ever seen a Biden hat? So think of it. We have hundreds of millions over the 6, 7 years, 8 years. We have hundreds of millions of hats sold. And I'm asking, has anybody ever seen a hat saying Biden? I don't think so. Well, we did have hats, because we made them, that said, where's Hunter? Where's Hunter? Holy where he turned out to be. He was in some dark places. But is this going to be where they go and indict your opponent? Is this going to be the next president's going to say, hey, listen, my opponent is doing really well all over the place. Look at the crowds we have. I mean, outside you got a lot of people. And by the way, I want to say officially for the press, it's about 110 degrees in this room. Nice job with the air conditioning, whoever. But you know what the press will say? You know what they'll say? Trump didn't look well. He was extremely wet. It's 104 or 5 degrees in this room. But we're okay with it, right? Good. But is this going to be the future of elections in America, where a sitting president tells his attorney general to indict the opponent, to try and knock the opponent down? This is what's happening. And then you ask the simple question. So this has been going on for a long time, the same stuff. Why didn't they do it 2.5 years ago? You know why? Because then it wouldn't have mattered so much. You know, they want to take away your freedom of speech. Everything else would have mattered a lot less. And it would have been terrible because it's all bogus. But why, if they were going to do it, why didn't they do it 2.5 years ago before the election, right? They waited till the election. They waited. And I probably have another one. They say there's a young woman, a young racist in Atlanta. She's a racist. And they say, I guess, they say that she was after a certain gang, and she ended up having an affair with the head of the gang or a gang member. And this is a person that wants to indict me. She's got a lot of problems. but she wants to indict me to try and run for some other office. What's going on in this country is, and by the way, wants to indict me for a perfect phone call. This was even better than my perfect call with Ukraine. Remember that call? That was a perfect call. This one's better. This one is more perfect. I challenged the election in Georgia, which I have every right to do, which I was right about, frankly. And they want to indict me because I challenged the election. So does that mean that Hillary Clinton, who challenged the election, does that mean that Stacey Abrams and all of the other, virtually every Democrat challenges the election? Does that mean, or they do the slate of electors? This has been going on since Thomas Jefferson. He wanted to say, but they don't call. They used my word. They took it and they said fake. Because I came up with the name fake news a long time ago. Worked out good. But it's no longer good enough because it's not tough enough, because it's really corrupt news. It's beyond fake. They don't even write. They don't even write. All the money that Biden is stealing, you don't see one story. Years ago, they'd win Pulitzer Prizes. Today, even Pulitzer Prizes of very little value because, we're suing the Pulitzer Foundation because they gave Pulitzer Prizes to people that wrote about the Russia hoax for their wonderful writing, their brilliance. They were wrong. They were totally wrong. And everybody admits they were wrong. So why doesn't Pulitzer just give back the awards? Because they're radical left lunatics. But we're suing. We'll see what happens. We're doing quite well. Never happened in the USA. This has never happened where an attorney general is told to take the Justice Department and the FBI and sue somebody, think of it, who's running for president and leading not only the Republicans by 50 points, but leading the Democrat by a lot. So he says, sue him, and that will bring him down. But they sued, and I have a guy, they call him Deranged Jack Smith. He's deranged. And Biden, on the boxes stuff, Biden has almost 2,000 boxes. Some were held in Chinatown, not a good place for him. And you don't ever hear anything about him. And I came under a thing called the Presidential Records Act. Won't go into it. But it's beautiful. But we have this deranged lunatic looking at us, and he's got a very nice man, a very gentle man. Our guy leaks. He does things that are just terrible. And because of that, we're leading by a lot. Because, frankly, I think it's had a huge impact because it shows how sick and how evil these people are, in addition to not knowing anything about the border, about the economy, about the military, or about dealing with other nations. So this is all about election interference. But that isn't quite good enough. Crooked Joe now wants the thug prosecutor, this deranged guy, to file a court order taking away my First Amendment rights so that I can't speak. So listen to this. We don't want you to speak about the case. The case is a ridiculous case. It's a First Amendment case. But we don't want Trump to speak. So they take away your rights on First Amendment. Now they sue because so now I have one of these lunatic reporters back there saying, sir, would like to talk to you about your case. Or, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to talk about it. Somehow that's not good for votes. Do you agree? When we say I can't talk, I will talk about it. I will. They're not taking away my First Amendment right. So, based on yet another radical left hoax, I've gone through many hoaxes, as the people in this room know very well. But it's another one, radical left hoax like Russia, the no collusion Mueller report. How about that? After 3 years, we find no collusion. I was supposed to be like working for Russia. They went through millions of phone calls, not one call made to Russia. They have no collusion after almost 3 years. Then they created a fake dossier. It was made by, how bad are people when they make up a story about Russia? They put it in the fake dossier like it was legit. And even the guy that wrote it, who we're also suing, by the way, but the guy that wrote it, Christopher Steele, they offered him $1 million, the FBI, if he would affirm. They would beg, please, take $1 million. The way they give money, man, the FBI, they give away a lot of money, don't they, huh? So they offered him $1 million to affirm it. He couldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. It turned out to be a total fake. But here's Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff, and he comes out, he says to the reporters gathered, click, 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 they're all going crazy. Donald Trump Jr., the son of the President of the United States, will go to jail over Russia, Russia, Russia. Now think of it. He made it up with Hillary and all these people. They made it up, and they're saying that my son will go to jail. Now, how bad do you have to be to do that? So they know it's a phony story. They know it's a phony story. They say he's going to go to jail. These are not Mrs. Lewandowski. You hear that? Can you imagine if that with these kids? Can you imagine look what your husband got me into? I could have been relaxing at Mar-a-Lago or in the south of France, which I would prefer being in this country, frankly. But they got involved with Pfizer, the fraudulent Pfizer applications. Remember, they sent in applications to the courts, and they were all fraud. The judges never did anything about it. They knew they were frauds. It was written about. They never did anything about it. The 51 intelligence agents that said Hunter's laptop from hell was all Russia disinformation. Do not use it. You know, they say that made like from a 10 to a 17-point difference in the polls. The FBI Twitter files, the DOJ, Facebook, and all of the rest, look at 2,000 Mules. Look at what they did with that. Thousands and thousands and thousands of votes on tape, on camera. All of this will come up during this trial. All of this will come up. Because we won the election by a lot. Then they have this crap going on. I never even thought of this one. Trump didn't really believe he won the election. Let me tell you, people that know me say, that's one thing. I tell you, there was never a second of any day that I didn't believe that election was rigged. It was a rigged election. It was a rigged election, and it was a stolen, disgusting election. And this country should be ashamed. And they go after the people that want to prove that it was rigged and stolen so it never happens. They go after them. They don't go after the people that rigged it, okay? And we'll see how it all turns out. You know, we've been right about a lot of things, right? You ever see Trump was right about everything, ultimately. Let's see how that all works out. So in other words, I'll be the only politician in American history not allowed to speak because of our corrupt system. Sir, you're not allowed to speak on the show. In other words, I'll come here and I'll say, hi, everybody. Listen, not allowed to speak. Please vote for me, New Hampshire, if you would. Bye. And all I can say is the never-ending witch hunt continues, and we have exposed so much. Nobody's ever thought I have exposed so much. It's been incredible. But do not fear. We will win bigger and better than ever before. They rigged the presidential election in 2020, and we're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election in 2024. We're not going to allow it to happen. We're not going to allow it to happen, New Hampshire. And you're such an important state. You know, you're relatively small. You're so important politically. And, you know, I kept Iowa and you in those first positions. Please remember that. Because I thought there was a great, beautiful tradition to it. They wanted to move you way back in the line, and I said, nope, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. You are in the position. You'll always be there as long as I have anything to say about it. Joe Biden is the most incompetent and corrupt president in U.S. history. The Biden crime family was taking in money from China, Ukraine, Russia, all these places he has to deal with, and so many others. And now whenever more Biden corruption is exposed, his henchmen charge me with a crime. You know, when they get something on Biden, oh, let's add on another indictment to that stupid indictment that we filed. Let's add on another one, because that takes the news cycle. Unfortunately, I get disproportionate publicity. So they indict me. He's right, great balls. But so they indict me. So when they want to keep something, they say, oh, man, they got Hunter again. You know, at some point, Joe is going to have to say, you know, the sun thing just isn't working out. Do you agree? The sun thing. The sun thing's not working out too good. All he had to do is pick up the laptop. Didn't the guy call him like 11? Pick up your laptop. Pick up your laptop. I wonder where that cocaine came from. What happened? Boy, that was the quickest investigation I've ever seen. You know, somebody told me, could be wrong. I always say that way you can never get sued, you know. Somebody told me, could be wrong. I'm sure it's wrong. But in that little cubicle where it was, there would be normally thousands of fingerprints. You know, people meet her. There were none. It was clean. It was so clean. It's the kind of place I'd like to be, actually, clean. I like cleanliness. But it's called a cover-up. Every time the radical left Democrats, Marxists, communists, fascists indict me, I consider it a great, great, great badge of honor. I do. I do. Because I'm being indicted for you. I am being indicted for you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. But never forget, our enemies want to stop us because we are the only ones who are going to stop them. It takes brave people to stop these radical lunatics. It takes brave people. They're sick. They're sick people. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. That's what's happening here. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you. I'm just standing in their way, and I always will stand in their way, I promise. And if you put me back in the White House, their reign will be over, and America will be a free nation once again, because we do not have a free nation. And from my first day in office, I will appoint a special prosecutor to study each and every one of the many claims being brought forth by Congress, and they're doing a good job. Jamie Comer, Jim Jordan, all of them. Concerning all of the crooked acts, including bribes from China and many other countries, all these foreign countries sending money into the coffers of the Biden crime family, we will have a special prosecutor, and now they'll come after me even a little harder, but I don't know how many more. How much harder can they do it? I should have 4 by sometime next week. I never heard, I went to the Wharton School of Finance. We never studied indictment. We never studied arrest. We never studied prison. These are sick people we're dealing with. It's often said that Republicans don't fight hard enough, and I happen to agree, but they never said that about Trump. And you have some Republicans that are fighting very hard now, I have to tell you. But you're going to see that on my first day in the presidency. The deep state is destroying our nation, but the tables will turn very quickly, and we will destroy the deep state. And we got rid of a lot. It didn't look like it, but we got rid of a lot. But we're also fighting like hell and also doing a great job in holding back China, holding back North Korea, Kim Jong-un. All of a sudden that problem stopped. Russia would have never gone in. China would not be talking about Taiwan right now. We did a great job. I mean, when you think about it, we did a job that very few people have done, on top of the greatest economy ever, strongest border ever, all of these things, and we had this stuff hanging over our head all the time. That's all they do. They're the party of misinformation and disinformation. In just 4 short years, we already achieved more than any administration, probably in the history of our country. We delivered the largest tax cuts and regulatory cuts by far in history, and likewise, we built the greatest economy in history. We achieved energy independence and would have shortly gained energy. We were going to be dominant. Energy dominance for the first time ever. We had gas prices at $1.87 a gallon. After years of bitter betrayals, you really have high prices here. Your electric costs are about the highest in the country. Good luck with your electric cars, everybody. How dumb is that? And they're sitting all over the place. Nobody wants them. How crazy. If you want an electric car, you buy an electric car. But you got to have choice, just like you're going to have school choice. After years of bitter betrayals of New Hampshire workers, I ended the disaster known as NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made, replaced it with the USMCA, the best trade deal ever made. In fact, it's such a good deal that Mexico and Canada are now trying to renegotiate it with the Biden administration. And I say, don't let them do it. We suffered with that crazy NAFTA for years. Everyone said I'd never be able to terminate it because I had to terminate it through Congress. We got it terminated through Congress, NAFTA. We got the USMCA. It's the best trade deal ever made. It's unbelievable. Much better for us than it is for Mexico and Canada, as you can tell. I stood up to China like no administration has ever done before, bringing in billions and billions and billions of dollars pouring into our treasury when no other president had gotten literally 10 cents, not 1 penny they got from China. China had us figured out really well. I gave our farmers in Great New England lobstermen $28 billion from the massive tariffs I received from China. And DeSantis opposed the deal, by the way. He opposed it, just to put it out there quickly. He also opposed Social Security. I don't know if you know, he wanted to decimate Social Security, Medicare. And Social Security, he wanted to bring the minimum age up to 70. So I don't know if you know that. And remember one thing about a politician. When that's his original thought, that's where they go back to. They may come up here and talk to you, oh, I love Social Security. No, he voted 3 times to terminate and decimate it. We appointed over 300 federal judges and 3 great Supreme Court justices. And how about the ruling last week where they say that if you get great marks, you go to college first? There's no more crazy discrimination and other things. Nobody thought that was going to happen. And last year, those justices ruled to end Roe v. Wade. They ruled to end Roe v. Wade. Now, I have to tell you, we have to talk about it because it, energizes the other side a little bit, and it's not good. But just so you understand and how to talk about it, now pro-lifers have a tremendous power to negotiate. You had no power whatsoever. They could kill the baby at any time they wanted. They could kill the baby whenever they wanted. This moves the issue back also to the states, where all legal scholars want it back in the states. But you have tremendous power to negotiate. Like Ronald Reagan, before me, I support the 3 exceptions. You have to go with your heart. But I support for rape, incest, and for the life of the mother. I do that, and a lot of people do. Big portion do. And remember this, the Democrats, though, we're not the radicals. They're the radicals because they're willing to kill babies in their 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th month, and even after birth. So if you remember that, and the exceptions, in my opinion, are important, in my opinion, but you have to go with your heart. But we did something that was amazing. For 50 years, they've tried to get it out. They wanted it back in the states. All legal scholars on both sides wanted it back in the states. But you now have a tremendous power to negotiate something that's going to be good and going to be lasting. And it was a tremendous achievement, But just remember, they were the radicals. They try and make you into radicals and monsters. They were the radicals because they were killing babies in 5th, 6th, 7th. And nobody on either side wants that to happen. They did a poll of Democrats the 9th month. They had like nobody. So you have to remember, so you're in a very good position. You have the power now of negotiation. We gave you something that was really a fantastic thing that most people thought couldn't be done, and now you have to use it wisely. They're the extremists, not us, and we created the most secure border in U.S. history. We built nearly 500 miles of border wall. We got Mexico to give us 28,000 soldiers free of charge. Remember when they said, oh, Mexico didn't pay. Mexico gave us 28,000 soldiers free of charge. That's a lot more than a little bit for the wall and a lot less complicated. I said to the president, a lot of people are coming in from Mexico. The cartels are bringing in really bad people. You have to give us soldiers. No, I will not do that. I said, no, you have to. How many do you need? 28,000. Well, that's a lot. That's a lot of soldiers. Pancho Villa, with the bullets going on. Pancho Villa, these soldiers aren't politically correct either. Ours have to be politically correct. If our soldier speaks up to a person a little bit rough, they put him in the brig for the rest of his life, okay? It's not good what they do to our soldiers, I tell you. They don't get it. But we had 28,000 soldiers. So people say, well, what about Mexico? Did Mexico? But I said, much better. But they said, we're not going to do it. I said, that's okay. Don't do it, but you're going to suffer big consequences because what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign legislation, which is on my desk, that for every car, they took 32% of our business out of the United States over a period of 22 years. 30, not during my administration, nothing. Because I told people, you go there, you're going to put a big tariff if you sell it back in. That's all you had to do, and you would have kept everybody. But they took 32. I said, here's what you do. If you don't give us 28,000 soldiers, I am going to put a 25% tariff on everything that Mexico sells into the United States, meaning you're not going to sell anything because nobody's going to want it. No, you should not do that. I said, that's what I'm going to do. And they said, in thinking about it, we would be honored to give you 28,000 soldiers. So we had 28,000 soldiers. Remain in Mexico. That was another one I got. Remain in Mexico. When these people come in, they come into our country and they stay and they never leave. That's it. And they're criminals, and they come in from many times, many jails. They've been emptied out. And what I did is I got it. Remain in Mexico. Now the people have to remain. But the problem is that Biden is giving it all up. He's given everything up. Our medical stay, he gave up. Even the judge said, you don't want to give that up. Our country's going to be overrun. So they gave it up. But all of that was just the beginning. Here's some of the agenda that I will immediately implement when we become that's you and me, we're all going to become the president of the United States, 47th president of the United States. And before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after I win the presidency, we will have that horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. It'll be settled. I know them both very well. Get it done very quickly, maybe in 24 hours. And I'm the only candidate who can make you this promise. I will prevent World War III. I'll prevent it. Not going to happen. We have a man right now who can't put two sentences together. And he's negotiating on our behalf with nuclear weapons. He's lost every country. Now we're enemies with Russia, with China, with North Korea, with Iran. I terminated the Iran deal. I got Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, and built our beautiful building out of Jerusalem stone, right? Our beautiful, old Jerusalem. You can't put two words together. He said, well, it's true, too. No, but we have a man who can't put two sentences together, and he's negotiating with people that, like President Xi of China, he's negotiating with people that are at the top of their game. There's nobody in Hollywood that can play the role of some of these people. These are smart, tough killers. Macron of France, and you heard this story maybe quickly because I'm sweating like a dog up here. But does anybody want me to stop, or should we go forward? Macron of France. He put a big tax. He wanted to put a big tax on our companies doing business in France. I said, you can't do that. I gave it to my people to do. They weren't able to do anything about it. 2 weeks, they come back. Sir, he's very strong on that. He wants to do it. I think it was like a 25% tax, some ridiculous tax for American companies. I called him. I said, Emmanuel, I like you very much. You're my friend, but you can't put the tax on. If you do, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to put a 100% tariff on all of your wines and champagnes that I don't even like. I'm going to put a 100% tariff on wines and champagnes coming out of France and coming into... No, Donald, you cannot do that. I said, oh, I can do that. You have 10 minutes to tell me. He said, I give up, and he took off the tax. That's what happened. I gave it to my geniuses. They couldn't... Sure, there's no way we can stop it. It was passed by his legislature. To stop Biden's inflation catastrophe, bring down the cost of energy and become energy independent and even energy dominant. We are just 3 years ago, we were energy dominant. We were energy independent. But we will drill, baby drill. We are going to be drilling and bringing it way down. To bring 10,000, it's going to bring tens of thousands more manufacturing jobs back to New Hampshire. We already did it. We made this place very successful. You know, anything that's good that's happening with the economy, it's only because they're running on the fumes of what we built. You understand that? They're running on the fumes, but those fumes can't last much longer, and they're just pouring money out. You know, all these crazy deals, this Inflation Reduction Act, $1.7 trillion, and it increases inflation. But they're running on the fumes of what we did, and we did an incredible job. I will impose a border tariff on all foreign-made goods coming into this country. And I will pass the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act very quickly. That is, if India, China, France, anybody, Germany, they charge us, we don't charge them because we had stupid people. And I started changing that a lot, but then we had COVID, we had to fix that mess. But all a gift from China. But reciprocal trade, if they're charging us 100% for a motorcycle, when we do a motorcycle, we charge them 100%. Right now, they charge 157% for a motorcycle. Harley would have to send. So what does Harley do? They have to go and build a plant in India, or they have to go and build. No more. No more. We were all set to do this, too. It was all set. We had a couple of stupid senators that didn't like it. One of them, coming from Pennsylvania, said to me, "Sir, this is not free trade." I said, wait a minute. This country, I won't tell you which, is charging us 200%. We charge them nothing. Would it be okay if I charged them half, 100%? No, sir, that's not free trade. How about 50%? How about 25%? How about 10%? He said, no, sir, it's not free trade. I said, you're either corrupt or you're stupid as hell, because it's crazy. So we're going to pass it. So if they charge us, very simple, we charge them, and it's probably all going to disappear. The Biden economic bust will be replaced with the historic Trump economic boom. I will immediately terminate every open borders policy of the Biden administration. Our country is being invaded. Following the Eisenhower model, we will use all necessary state, local, federal, and military resources to carry out the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. Got to do it. Got to do it. And I will use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning trafficked children to their families in their home countries immediately. To stop the Marxist prosecutors who release rapists and murderers while persecuting Republicans, conservatives, people of faith, and me, by the way. I will direct a completely overhauled DOJ to investigate every radical DA and AG in America for their illegal, racist in reverse enforcement of the law. And we will bring back a thing called stop and frisk in our cities. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children, our beautiful children. Our beautiful children are being destroyed by these maniacs. I will keep men out of women's sports. It's very easy to do. And I will sign a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. Can you imagine? Can you imagine even having to say that? Think of this. 15 years ago, could you imagine? I will stop child sexual mutilation. Can you imagine having to? That's actually a part of my campaign. Can you imagine having to say that we're going to stop the mutilation of children? Just as I did for 4 years, I will fully uphold the Second Amendment. It's going to be in good shape. And I will fully secure our elections. They'll be done the right way. Our goal will be one-day voting with paper ballots and voter ID. That's what our goal is. But until then, Republicans must compete, and we must win. 2024 is the most important election we've ever had. But this is what we must do to restore our country to greatness. The USA is a mess. Our economy is crashing. Inflation is out of control. China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea have formed together as a menacing and destructive coalition like we've never seen before. Our currency is crashing and will no longer, in my opinion, be the world standard if it keeps going like this, which will be the single greatest defeat of our country in 200 years. We lose the power of the dollar. It won't happen with me, not even a little chance. Just like Russia would have never invaded Ukraine and China would have never even thought about raiding Taiwan. They wouldn't have done it. I told them, you're not going to do it. If you took the 5 worst presidents in the history of the United States and added them up, they would not have done near the destruction to our country as Joe Biden and the Biden administration have done. We are a failing nation. I don't like saying that. But we are. We are a failing nation. We're a nation in decline. And now these radical left lunatics want to interfere with our elections by using law enforcement, the DOJ, and the FBI. It's totally corrupt, and we're not going to let it happen. 2024. I have no idea how important it is. It's our final battle. It's our final real big battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media. We will defeat crooked Joe Biden, and we will drain the swamp once and for all. The great silent majority is rising like never before. I mean, never before. It's never been, I don't believe it's ever been like this. I said it twice tonight. I'll say it again. We have never had anything like it. The spirit, the love, the passion. There's never been anything like this. And we went through 2016 and we went through 2020, and most people would say they were the most passionate. This is blowing it away. But we've never had anything like this, never before. And under our leadership, the forgotten men and women will be forgotten no longer. With your help, your love, and your vote, we will put America first. We will make America. We're going to make America greater than ever before. We're going to make it great. It's hard to believe right now. Our country is at such a low point. We will make America greater than ever before. Thank you, New Hampshire. God bless you. God bless you, New Hampshire. God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Great speech the president just delivered in New Hampshire. Now, he was touched upon the veterans, and as far as making sure he was going to not spend one penny on Veterans Affairs if any type of transgender element is in that. He also talked about farmers and the need to protect our farmers and make sure they have the funding they need. And also just talked about getting the economy back on track, as many Americans right now are suffering from inflation, and just making America great again. And of course, we want to thank all of our partners today. We got the Birch Gold Group. Once again, make sure you can diversify your investments. Our friends over the Birch Gold Group want to help you do that. Just simply text the words Trump to 989898 to get that free information kit and take that first step into investing in gold, silver, and precious metals. Also, don't forget about those tumblers, the Trevis tumblers, insulated, 100% made right here in the U.S. We've got the We the People. We have the Don't Tread on Me and Home of the Free because of the brave. We love these things. They're vacuum sealed. They're spill proof and great way to say, I love this country, especially if you got somebody going back to college. Also, lastly, the Wellness Company. If you want to get back to that pre-COVID, pre-vaccine feeling that you had, Dr. Peter McAuliffe has a great formula for that. Removes the spike protein left after the vaccine. Get back to your better health. The Wellness Company, Make Care Great Again. That's Make Care Great Again, the Wellness Company. In terms of programming, we will keep an eye on any legal proceedings coming out of Georgia in the next week or so. We'll be watching it closely, as we all will continue to bring you any kind of late breaking news from that. And obviously, President Trump expected to be back on the campaign trail with the rallies across this country. I would imagine going into September, his calendar is probably pretty busy, so stay tuned for that as well. And as always, you can sign up for our newsletter on our website. Go to rsbnetwork.com, rsbnetwork.com. Sign up for our newsletter. You can also donate there as well. Because we've got some great partners, but our biggest partner right now is you watching us at home. rsbnetwork.com/donate. I will say this: next week we'll be live in Springfield, Missouri, as Mike Lindell has a very special election 2-day summit that he will unveil. A new plan that can actually secure our elections. And I was talking to him, and it's nothing that has to be passed by any kind of legislation. It's nothing that anybody has to vote on. The governor doesn't have to do it. It's something that could be implemented immediately for the elections, even in the fall. We're not even talking 2024. We're talking about this year. So stay tuned for that. We'll be live from Springfield, Missouri with Mike Lindell. Day one, we'll recap the 2020 election. And then, of course, day two, starting at 12 o'clock local time, is the big news that Mike Lindell will unveil his plan to save our elections. As always, you can go follow me on social media at Brian Glenn TV, and you can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Truth Social, and subscribe to us on Rumble. Until next time, America, goodbye. God bless. We'll see you back here next week.
What's up, guys? My name is Jaden Hurd, and you're watching Right Side Broadcasting Network. I have a new show over there on Rumble that comes out every Tuesday and Friday called Let It Be Heard. What we do is react to videos, we analyze the culture, and we analyze politics from a biblical perspective. I think you're going to enjoy it, so I'll see you over there. God bless.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took MyPillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented MyPillow to bring you the best pillow in history, MyPillow 2.0. Because of all of you, MyPillow 2.0 has been a huge success, and now we're bringing you our best-selling Go Anywhere MyPillows with the same temperature-regulating technology. Made with my patented adjustable fill and brand new cooling fabric, they're truly the next generation of MyPillow. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save over 60% on our MyPillow 2.0 4-pack special. You'll get 2 MyPillows and 2 Go Anywhere MyPillows, regular $259.92, now only $99.98. King size just $10 more. This is a limited time offer, so please order now.
Right Side Broadcasting is known for panning the crowds, showing the packed arenas, and allowing you to see the truth. They've covered hundreds of rallies, briefings, marches, CPAC, and the historic overturning of Roe v. Wade. Right Side Broadcasting was created in 2015 by our founder, Joe Seals, creating a unique broadcasting experience that allows you to make your own decision rather than force-feeding you an agenda. We don't cut or edit people's words or twist them to fit a particular point of view. We allow our correspondents to be open about their opinions while maintaining journalistic integrity. Right Side Broadcasting wants to continue our legacy with help from people just like you. Your donations and support allow us to continue to be the gold standard in live, unedited event coverage. Help our cause by sharing our broadcasts, subscribing on our social media platforms, and supporting us on our locals community. Your monthly or one-time contributions on our website are crucial in our fight for the truth. Thank you for all of your generous support.